So we are live.
All right, y'all. Y'all know if it is Friday, y'all know it is time for All Politics Are Local, America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. Well, listen, y'all, we've got a heck of a show going on tonight. Of course, y'all know that it is the second Friday, so y'all know it's time for the vote. So of course, tonight we're expecting from the vote. We expected Brother Conrad to come through, as well as Tamika to come through tonight at 7. But of course, John is going to tell y'all all of the other things that's going to take place in between that time. Of course, John.
All right. So at 6 o'clock, we're going to have South Ward Councilman Patrick Council come on, talk about some of the both positive and negative things that are going on in the South Ward right now, and some of the positive things that are being done to do about it. And to congratulate him for in his first week as councilman of the South Ward. That's 6:30. We are going to have a rundown of politics, stuff that's going on nationally. At 7 o'clock, we've got the vote. The vote's going to be great tonight. We're going to have Tamika Mallory as scheduled to come on. We've got Larry Hamm that's scheduled to come on. We've got Reverend Conrad Tillard to come on. We also have from the ACLU, ACLU New Jersey, we have Alejandra Sorta scheduled to come on. And we also have legendary labor organizer, Hetty Rosenstein, who's also going to be coming on talking about all of this stuff with the court, activism, organizing. Like streets are hot right now all over the country because of things that have happened. We also, at 8 o'clock, we're going to have Salvation and Social Justice on. And of course, at 8:30, we have DJ Rhino and the State of Hip Hop. So all this is coming on right now for you. It's going to be a fun show. And I am in Iowa right now. So I will not be with you for the show tonight. But Iowa says, hey, Iowa says, how you doing? I will just say a shout out to Iowa. I saw some black people the other day. And it was great. I was like, yo, all
tell
these
them where
black
you
people,
are in Iowa.
right?
Wait a minute. Tell them where you are.
I'm in Indianola, Iowa, which is it's on Simmons College campus. The cool thing though about the campus is that they have a building dedicated to George Washington Carver.
There you go. That's what I want to
because George Washington Carver actually went to Simmons College for 2 years because no other place in the country would give this brother education. So he went to Simmons College for 2 years because of to get that education. So all that agriculture, all the things you could do with the peanut butter. There's a building dedicated to him here. There's a statue that's dedicated to him here. So greetings from Iowa. Welcome, Patrick Council. Glad you are on. First, congratulations, man.
Appreciate it, man. Peace to the brothers.
Yeah. Congratulations to the councilman.
Yes,
we can officially say that now.
I know that's
right. Yeah, that was a hard fought race. And
Pat, we always thought you was the unofficial councilman anyway over there.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. This work that we've been putting out here on the streets is been rigorous, but rewarding.
Yep. Well, man, we're glad that you finally got the job done, man. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
A new chapter.
So why don't we talk a little bit about, what your plans are, what's going on. And, I mean, of course, when the mayor was on, one of the things he was talking about was, of course, he was just saying how violence was out of control and that, we had to get that under control and so forth. So, but, the fact that you are a resident in that neighborhood, you already know what needs to be done and how to get it done.
Yeah. I mean, part of the thing is we have to, get these young folks and some of our young adults understanding the importance of living, right? That's the first thing, man, and trying to refocus the mindset, re-engage our people at a different level and move them out of this kind of, comfortability model that they're in and let them know that, the ancestors struggled, fought for them to be in these positions that they're in. And that they have to value life and they have to look at life purposefully, right? That not just to value it, but look at it as change agents and people who have been out here and been put out here to be purpose, to make a difference and change. That's what we know, from the grassroots levels, from the fights and things that we've been in, that no one is going to give anything to us. because power concedes nothing without struggle or demand. It never has or it never will. And so
Right.
we have to get out here and touch the very fabric of our people to condition them to change the mind that the enemy has put on them. And sometimes, in most cases, we're our own worst enemy.
Mm.
Can you give us? I know you were talking about like the shooting last week, and that I know that's rocked the community. A lot of people are talking about that. Can you tell us like your impression of what went on and what's going on right now? Like I know you're talking about it indirectly. Can you give us more of an update about that particular situation and what the official responses has been to that?
Yeah, well, the police are investigating, very seriously. There are a lot of people that are engaged and that they're looking at. But from the lower component, some of our young adults and adults that have been patrolling these environments and streets for years, who are out here, have to understand the importance of grabbing a hold of some of these people who want to fall under their auspices. And guide them directly and properly, and interjecting them the reason for living and want to be a part of it, and then trying to build and set aside a different culture to move them to a different level. Right? We cannot continue to allow cynicism and craziness to take over our streets. With people deploring the fact that they don't have any opportunities. The opportunities come when we create them and we exist them, and we have to get together and figure out ways how to do that, right? So there's something about us struggling together that makes us stronger than independently getting out here, making us feel like that we are in a battle all by ourselves. Because this fight that we in is protracted, man. It's not no singular thing, right? Poverty is not no singular thing. It's not something that just fell out of the sky. Is systematically driven and system designed, and we have to begin to change the narrative of what's happening out here on these streets. And in order to do that, we got to be present. We have to be present out here, engaging, talking to these folks, every single day, because they're our people, they're our young people, they're our young adults, and then also, providing a place where folks can feel like they're safe again. To come out and to walk on the streets and be engaged in a community that's changing, in a city that's changing, in a ward that's changing. Whether we want to fight it or not, these places are changing, and we have to prepare, our folks for this change that is happening.
That's interesting when because that seems to be a big thing, right? Safety seems to really be a big thing. I remember, Pat, when I was coming up, man, I remember the South Ward was one of the gems of the city of Newark, right?
Yes.
Just in terms of that. And so all of the things you're talking about makes me feel real hopeful, right? One, not just because I know you, but I mean, just based on the fact that you've got that kind of vision. And you also understand that, a man without vision, right, will perish. And just the fact that you have that vision and what the South Ward could be, and because what it was. But I think that safety seems to be really one of the main important issues in terms of being able to do that, and then being able to get a hold of those young people and being able to give them that kind of hope, so that they could begin to see what the realms of possibility are in the South Ward as well. Yeah. Not just in the South Ward, but the entire city of Newark. But in terms of you being, not only from Newark, but from that particular community.
Yeah. And listen, leadership matters, right? And Jonathan, you guys, all of you appreciate what I'm about to say. But trusted leadership matters even more, right? Yep. So think about this. We get in the office, we hit the ground running, right? Even at the inauguration, we come out, we deliver our, soliloquies, but at the same time, we have all of this stuff going on Mapes and Bergen with them going in and arresting and apprehending these individuals who were involved in the shooting that took place up there, right? We're back out on the street that night, 7 o'clock, moving around the community, doing some things, making sure that people, can see us and feel us. But in the same context, then I get information on my phone from a parent who says, listen, I'm cleaning up my house. I just found the gun in this house. I don't want to turn it into the police. I don't want to pick no stuff up. You know, how do I get this out of my hands? What do I do? Right. So if we're not from this community and we're not touching people and people can respond and respect us in that way, right? That call doesn't happen. That text doesn't happen. But now we got a responsibility to figure out how do we get that weaponry out of that mother's hand who was cleaning up her house and found this and said, look, I got to get this out of here. Because it belongs to a baby, right, in her house, and we have to figure out how to do that. So we're working right now very feverishly, right, to create, you know, a whole safe surrender location. I'm going to be working with the churches in the South Ward, the clergy. I've reached out to them already. We have to figure out mechanisms over the summer where we can tell parents, one, go clean your house up, be responsible. If you find anything that you know that don't belong in your house or don't belong to you, these are the places that you can drop this stuff in. No questions asked, no incident reports answered. Drop it and keep going so that we can continue on one end to clean up our community there, provide outreach to our young people who are on the streets, get a lot of our anti-violence people involved and engaged, and get them to realize that anti-violence means you have to be on the street. You can't organize anti-violence from Facebook. You got to be on the street, knocking on doors, dealing with folks, getting intel and information that's going to strengthen our communities. And we can't be afraid to engage, you know, our parents and our young people and young adults to make this stuff happen. And then in the same sense, we have to have the business mind and business sense enough to know that we still got to go sit at the table with these anchor institutions to talk about how we drive retail development. How do we drive not just development of housing, but also recreational spaces? That just does not mean parks and recreational facilities, but it means social recreational places where young people can engage and involve, and people can go out, be it a bowling alley, movie theater, or restaurant, where folks can be able to go out and relax and sit down and engage in these kind of ways, and get all of these other folks involved, be it Audible, Prudential, to get them to move from downtown in the neighborhood.
You know, all that you said sounds like community to me, right? And it also sounds a lot like what the, you know, the old pastors used to say. What they don't say now is, you know, they don't talk about neighborhoods. They just, you know, they just say we got neighbors, but we don't have a neighborhood, right? And that's because people are afraid. But I think that all that you said, Pat, is you know, it sounds like a yeoman's job, but I've got to say, I believe that you guys are the right people. I believe that you all are those people that I think that we have been waiting for, not only because y'all were the ones, you know, coming through as the organizers and fighting the powers and all of that. Now y'all got the power, right? Now, all that you're talking about, I know that you're fully capable of doing it. That's the crazy thing, right? So when you say that somebody called you and says, Councilman, I found a gun, well, you're right. I'm the right guy to call, because you know what? You know, I know how to handle this. I know who to talk to, and I know how to make sure that we look out for that young man or young woman who had that in here, and hopefully try to get them the help that they need in order to turn their lives around and move in the right direction. Y'all the right people, man. And I'm excited just based on all that you're saying, Pat. And you know, and I'm not only to that point, I hope that the community gets involved and help you get all of that done, Pat, right? Because it has to be a community effort in regards to getting it done. But all of that is what the community need. And nobody knows that more so than our brother Zaid.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Argument, you said it all. You said it all. Yeah, I didn't have to add to that. But Pat, let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
One of the things is that, you know, this stuff requires to wear different hats, or sometimes like 9 hats at the same damn time, and we ain't got but one head, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
You know, you're headed up recreation, you're local clergy, you know, and you're now counselor. So how does the shift? What does this shift mean for you, and how you actually show up in the work, how is that going to be different for you?
Yeah, the thing, Zayed, is we have to, take all of those brims and blend them together, right? And walk out here and utilize, every patch of leadership skills that we learned and every step of the way and everything that we did, and begin to bring people together, and bring them together in a very intentional and specific way, right? And sometimes, we have to begin to try to change the narrative, and get people to understand that we have to learn to move people from complaining to dealing with concerns, right? Because one of the things that I learned about concerns was concerns started movements, right? The concern of the people started the Montgomery bus boycott movement, right? Hence, for a year and a half, people didn't get on buses and rode, right? They didn't complain that somebody was arrested on it, but they had a concern about their treatment. They had a concern about issues and conditions, and they slotted out solutions and problems and said, we're going to be intentional and specific about how we deal with this in a very pragmatic way. That's what we do, right? And because we understand that we have to build the narrative from the bottom up and not the top down, that stuff is going to be done with the interaction of the people that want to get involved. And so here it is, we have to be together on the plane. You can't be there when the plane land and you wasn't there when the plane took off, right? We got to be there in all the hard times. We got to board the plane together. We got to feel the turbulence together, right? We got to fight through the rigors of the storm together. And when that plane land, we have to have a movement to get off of there, to give people proper instruction, to give people proper resource, to make people understand their value, their worth, so that they can engage and be involved in helping to change the community. Guess what? Just a little bit, because that may just take a little bit, might not even be a lot, but we got a responsibility to do a little bit, right? It's the little bit of frosting that make you want to bite into the cake a little more.
Right on, right on. Right on.
Well, for me, man, I think that, all that you guys are talking about doing, and just, the mere fact that somebody would call you and tell you they found a gun, that's a lot different, right, than what we know people in our community don't do, right? And I think that what that speaks to, Pat, is I think that speaks to, one, it speaks to who you are, but it speaks to who all you guys are, right? You guys and ladies. I think it speaks to who all y'all are. And I think that, when you say that, what I hear in my mind is that, this is what we've always wanted, right? We've always wanted our community to trust us, right? And to know that we wouldn't criminalize their children, nor would we criminalize them. But what we do want is an opportunity to make sure that all of us are safe, right? So if there's an illegal firearm in the house, listen, give me an opportunity to come in and help you remove it with no questions asked, and let's try and make the community safe for all of us. And I think that if we can get that message out there, Pat, right, that message that you've given, if we can get that message out, hopefully more people will call you, right? And call y'all and say, hey, man, where can I drop this thing off at? Let's give our community an opportunity. Let's give the new council an opportunity to see what it is that we really can get done. Because Pat, I said to the man, Zaid would bear me witness. I said to him when he was on last month, I said, man, I said, ain't nobody gonna save us but us. He said, you're right.
You're right.
Ain't nobody gonna save us but us. If we're gonna turn this thing around, Pat, we got to do it ourselves, right?
And we have to really manifest what's in our hands. What our task is. One of the things people don't believe me when I tell them how, for all of our problems, how we are actually beginning to come out of that rock of stigmatization. Of being the city that has the most crime and the most violence and all of that. We still got some serious problems, without a doubt. And the way these problems happen with these guns in particular traumatizes some of everybody, even when we're at our best with this. But our best has to continue to be good and to get better. We have to really manifest the work that those of us who are doing. We got to come even better still, and grow the work. Because underneath what we hear you saying, Patrick, is that by virtue of engaging our community, engaging our base, getting our people to become engaged and actually taking control of their community, we grow the work, right? We're not going to have community without the spirit and the feeling and the binding of community. So, so I just wanted to just throw that element in, because I know that's underneath what all of us do. Let me just throw this at you. Let me just add this. Based on the things that you are actually intimately involved in, right? Where are some of the building blocks that you think we need to really be focusing on?
Exactly. We lost Pat for a minute.
Huh?
We lost Pat for a minute.
Oh, so I'm steady rapping. He ain't even there.
Yeah. We lost him. So hopefully he's able to chime back in and you can ask that question. But Zaid, I don't know if you remember, the South Ward was really the gem of the Black community in the city of Newark, man.
For years.
Yep.
It was a gem when it was a Jewish community.
Yeah.
Listen to me, right? It was, and then when our folks moved in with an eye toward taking City Hall, back in the late 50s, early 60s. They wasn't coming in just looking to be bourgeois Negroes.
Yep.
It was the power base for what we call Black power in the town. We need to be real clear about that. And we need to claim that and letting our kids out here who are not really up on that, who don't have our consciousness in our politics, get that consciousness in politics and get them to understand is what Pat was trying to say earlier, is that we got more to live for than killing each other. We actually have our community in our hands in ways that we haven't had before. And that's a powerful thing. And we need to deal with some of that. Well, he really got knocked off. I still don't see him.
Yeah, me either. Yeah, he was in his car, so he might be driving. Hopefully he can get back on. So we can ask that
probably
question.
should make some time for all of the new council faces who haven't been on to probably try and do that,
And I think you're right. And I think we should make some regular time, because I think that, like he said, man, they hit the ground running, right? Yeah. Who knew? Them cats got right into the community like that, right? Yeah. But really, they don't have far to go. I'm just, listen, man, when he was saying all of that about what needs to happen and how you get in touch with all of those folks on the street, Zaid, it really is. It's about being able to reach those young people, man.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
that's what it's about. We've got to. At all costs, we've got to find a way to be able to communicate with those young people, and whatever that's going to take, whatever that cost is going to be, is I think what we're going to have to pay. And then you got to remember, Zaid, we all used to be them little young brothers at one point and sisters, right?
I wish I had about 10, 15 years back so I could be out there like I used to.
Right, and that's just why I'm
get back with him, because they get younger, we get older,
Yeah, well, that's true, but what I'm saying is that
absolutely, I got you.
When Pat was talking about being able to touch them and reach them, listen, Zaid, you don't, and I'm not saying you directly, right? But people don't understand when people have confidence and being able to call someone and know you're not going to lock them up or send them to jail or criminalize their children. But I want to tell you, there's an illegal gun in my house, right? There's something in that, man, so that they don't go out and throw that in the garbage and somebody find it and then something happens to somebody else. There's something in that, man.
Yeah, and that's credibility, right? Meaning that there are some of us in our community, because of our commitment, because of the integrity and the principle of our character, right? Using the spiritual language of our ancestors, right? That we are trusted enough to know that we can be called in situations like that, right? And there are a few of us who have it like that and need to, remember that why that's important. And and in the growing of this, we need, a whole nother wave of heads with the same kind of commitment, same kind of credibility, the same kind of principle, right? That can engender that same kind of trust, right? And then we can build on those kind of things, right? That mother, that made that call, she needs some other help, right? She got the help for that that urgent thing that she made the phone call, but there are layers, to some other problems that need some attention, right? So I look forward to figuring out how we can help her in that whole household and how that thing came in and it doesn't come in again. You dig, right? All of that. I mean, it's just. I want to shout out my big sister and comrade Vicky Donaldson, who just because in all of this, this is all practical stuff. Tell no lies, claim no easy victories, said the great Pan-Africanist revolutionary Milka Cabral. I mean, she laid out that I need some help on my block with some folks, and that we need to look at that. When folks identify problems, we need to look at that and figure out how we can help them. Begin to address those things. But I wanted to shout out Vicky. I want to shout her out on so many levels. And we go back a lot of years. She was that way before me at Rutgers that opened the door for us, to kick the doors open for us to be able to our behinds to even go to Rutgers. And of course, most of us from the audience of this particular show and this particular show's base are considerably younger. They know her. We know her as her son's mom. As God's mom. Right. But God's mom is the bomb. Right. So I just wanted to shout her out because I know she made some comments early in, and so that's I'm glad Pat got on that. He wanted to come back on. I ran into him a few weeks ago, right after the runoff. I said, you got an open mic. When y'all need the drum, we got it. That's what it's for. So I'm glad he was able to come back on. I hope he can get back on if that'll allow, because I know he had more than he wanted to share, and I was trying to get at the different wrinkles of what he may be able to do that's different because of him being in the position, at City Hall. Things shift, and require you sometimes to move in a different way in different settings, and folks need to be able to see that, to be able to see that. I was with my little sister, Reverend Louise Roundtree, now Councilwoman Reverend Louise Roundtree. So she's doing her thing, but there's some things that she has to shift, because she's taking this new position and whatnot, and we have to, be mindful of how we manage those shifts, right? Because we want to be as right and exact in doing this work as we possibly can. So I'm proud of both of them. Look forward to them. Du was supposed to come on. He put out a video a minute ago. I didn't get a chance to look at it. Sharing his excitement about having this new responsibility. So he's taking his situation seriously. I haven't had a chance to meet our new councilman from the East Ward. And of course, Lawrence, Mr. Larry Crump. People forget that boy's mama is a legend too. He got some serious shoes he got to fill. And so he's got a shift he has to make in his own capacity to be as engaging, because nobody was more engaged in their community from that particular perch than his mother, and she was an example of how an elected local person should be engaged with her community for decades. I met his mother back in the 70s when I first started coming to 25. And it was starting out at Rutgers. She was houses doing landlord-tenant stuff, right? It was a cluster of landlord-tenant organizers right in the South Ward. Frank Hutchins, all of them, Mildred was right in there with them. They were banging it out, trying to make sure folks were being treated right, for their housing and whatnot back in the 70s, right? And she shifted from that to that, and brought that communities organizing sensibility into the work at City Hall, and was an example of how you're supposed to be engaged. A lot of folks, and this is horrible with Jersey political culture, right? And particularly as you move towards Trenton, is the posture of non-engagement. Let's get stuff done so we can say we did something, as opposed to engaging with the people and getting it right. And saying, Jersey politics and Trenton are really corny like that. They're not transparent. They don't encourage engagement. I know when we packed the one of the hearings for the CCRB bill, they were so scared. They're trying to get rid of that whole component now. So engagement matters. Pat, we missed you. I hope you heard some of what we were saying. We were getting on, but we were talking about the transitions from community organizing spaces into elected spaces, and how to need to get the rest of your new colleagues on and understand, that those transitions are important. But underneath all of that is the principle of staying engaged. Did we lose him
again? Yeah, he lost him again.
Oh man,
Pat tried to get settled. He tried to get settled.
Yeah, because he was in the car when he first got on, and it looked like he was in another space when he was just on again. Yeah. So yeah, that's important. But they've got the right personas and the best of intentions. Roundtree definitely got that. It was going to be interesting to see how things develop with her, because she definitely.
I think that the enthusiasm that they all bring is exactly what we need, right? Yeah. You need fresh blood, man, and you need people with a fresh outlook, right? Because but then you also need people who, like Pat said, remember that whole concept of struggle, right? That Frederick Douglass talked about, right? That we're not going to accomplish anything unless we're willing to struggle together. The problem is that most of our people are not willing to struggle with each other, right? If you disagree with me, Zaid, then I'm done with you, right? Yeah. And remember, Malcolm taught us, he said, keep your eye right on the goal. Keep your eye on the objective. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? And if you keep your eye on the objective, even though me and you disagree, we're going to stay focused on what it is we're trying to accomplish. And I think
behind, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I think that, based on having these brothers and sisters with that kind of spirit right now, I think that we can get something done in the city of Newark. I just want to see all of us get involved and become a part of that, so that we're all working together. I mean, that for me is what's exciting, man.
Yeah. Pat, can you hear us now? How you making out?
Yes, sir. We're good now, man. I apologize. I don't know what happened. We just kept getting disconnected, going to black. I apologize to the viewers, to everybody out there, because this conversation is important. We came a long way, and the point of the matter that you and Brother Ed was talking about is that there's people that want to help for real. There's folks out here who are paid provocateurs, people who cause confusion, intentionally. And there's really people out here that want to help for real, that want to be change agents, man, to this community, that want to wrap their arms around their people and love on them for real. And we really have to start embracing that and really try to put down whatever differences that people have and begin to work with them. Because, ultimately, man, we've been through some things with leaders. We've seen a lot of leaders, in the city, who's fought, who struggled for the belief and availability of their people, right? And wanting to see better for their people. And a lot of that really starts with us, man. We have to, get back to the narrative of really wanting to hold our people accountable and responsible for this work that we have to do. And not just doing the work outside, but also internally, right? Finding ourselves, collecting ourselves, because ultimately culture is freedom. And if we don't know who we are, we can't be free in that sense. And so we begin to let other people drive and push this narrative of who it is that they want us to be, and not work with who it is that God has centered us to be. Strong African people responsible for a village, to do this work together, to come up and pull ourselves up out of a system and in a situation that people have put us in. And the only people that can pull us out of it is us.
Yep. Pat, that's exactly what the man said, right?
No
when he was saying
lies, claim no easy
that it's us.
victories. That's right.
Yes.
And see, here's the thing, Pat. You know all of that, right? And that's why y'all are the right people, man. And y'all not afraid, to get your hands down there in the mud and do what needs to be done with these young brothers and sisters and our elderly in our community. They need to be safe, man, right? We know the culture. We know the language, right? We are these people's sons and daughters, right? We want them to be safe. And so we want to be able to find out what is it going to take so our grandmothers can feel safe going to church again on Sunday morning. What is it for young people to have the hope
I
that they
mentioned Vicky
need?
Donaldson.
in
Vicky
the
Donaldson is
community?
one of our elders now. You damn right. That's right.
And we have a responsibility to build the next Zaids and to build the next Ed rallies. Like, we got a responsibility to do that, to build the next, Pat Councils, the Baracas. And although people may think that sounds crazy in a sense, our job is to build the next generation. I mean, just to think about what Brother Khalid Muhammad and Brother Kadir Muhammad, who struggled on the streets here in the city of Newark, and all of those brothers that came before us, they had a responsibility to build the next generations of leaders, of agitators that will get people out here to understand that you have a moment not just to seize power, but to activate it properly.
Yep. Pat, when you say that, one of the things I'm reminded of is you remember this, right? When the mayor was saying on one of the shows he was on, when he was saying how, you remember when we were coming up and we were in college, remember all those, what was it? The Black Expo in New York. Remember we would go to those things and they'd have different, speakers and workshops. He was saying that we need to expose these young people to be able to hear that, right? We've got to expose them to some of that culture, because you already said it, Pat. You know that culture is a weapon, right?
Yeah.
But if all these kids run around and say culture to them is nothing more than rap, well, that's not really culture, y'all. We need to help y'all understand that culture is bigger than just a rap culture. There's a bigger culture than that. And we've got to be able to expose these young people. So when you talk about the creation of more Zaids or more Pat Councils or more Ed Rileys, well, we've got to expose them to that. Because if all they're exposed to is those cats who want to help them get a gun or help them get something else, well, that's a limited exposure. But we've got to expose ourselves to them, and that's why when Vicky Donaldson says she's there and ready to help, well, that's all of us, Pat. We there and ready to help you, man.
That's
you
right.
now are the councilman. You now the leader. Yo, let's organize, man. Let's get in the street. Let's do what we need to do under your leadership, man, and that's in the South Ward. Why? Because you can be trusted. We know you ain't. You ain't that. We know Pat Council ain't the turncoat dude. That ain't the dude. Let's find a way to
And
meet
we ain't
with
got
Pat.
to go looking
Let's
for him.
find
We
a
know
way to
where he
talk to
at.
him.
He always,
Right.
He ain't hiding no damn way.
Right. That's the difference in that. See, Pat, I'm trying to tell you what the comfort is that we know this dude, right?
Right.
We telling y'all this is us. This guy is us, man. So y'all, we want to turn this thing around. Let's talk to our brother. Brother, here's what we need to do. And we know when you sit down and talk to the man, y'all having the council meetings, you're gonna be like, yo, bro, here's where we are, man. Here's what we got to get done. This is the opportunity that we've been waiting for, man.
I think what has happened is that people want to see you have public arguments with your brothers and sisters now, right? And in no other space do people do that, right? I mean, Biden and all of these other people, they get in back rooms and they air out whatever the grievances they are and whatever they say, and then they come out and try to be on one accord, right? But the narrative is we are expecting that we should be able to yell at our brothers and sisters in public, right? To demean, to demote, to pull down, to try to emasculate.
That's about being seen doing yelling.
And instead of understanding our intellectual capacity to begin to work with our people and share the narrative and share solutions, right? The problem with the emperor was the fact that it wasn't that he was naked. It was that nobody wanted to tell him he was naked, right? And so even on a communal basis, because we live right next to neighbors, and we don't want to tell them that they're dirty, that they should put their garbage can in the back of the house, that they should clean up, that they should not be out here, trying to sell drugs and disturb and cause reckless stuff, but they should be trying to build, right, and trying to do things that is progressive to help the movement of the city, so that as the city move, we all move together collectively.
Yep. I think that's most certainly what we've got to talk about creating, right? We've got to be able to create a community by which we all can talk to each other, right? And have real private community conversations with one another, and then be able to go out, and as Zaid and I talk about all the time, putting together a united front, right? We can turn the city of Newark around, right? And nobody else is going to do that but us, right? And I think that all of those ideals that you're putting forward, right, are the right kind of ideals, right? I mean, imagine, and here's the other thing, Pat. It's not just saying to your neighbor, put your garbage out or clean your garbage up. How about if we come out and we help you do that? How about that, right? We create that, and we say Saturday morning, this is going to be, our mantra. We coming out on Saturday.
We're going to clean up our block together.
Right. Grandma, if you can't get it done, we coming out there to help you. Right. Can you provide the broom? Can you provide the garbage can? Well, we're going to help sweep for you. Right. And we do that together as a community. And then we get to know each other. Right. We begin to talk to each other, and we begin to look out for each other. Now, all of a sudden, Pat, we get back to that old school community. So if you see a young man doing something wrong, or he's out of control, right? Somebody can pull him in check. Why? Because that's Miss So-and-so's son, and that's Uncle Bobby's nephew. Now all of a sudden there's a level of safety that's occurring, but we all now looking out for each other. But I think what we hadn't had, Pat, and I think you said it, what we haven't had is we just haven't had the leadership, right? And we need good leadership, and I think that's where it's starting at. I think that we've had the mayor. And I think that the mayor's done everything he could do in the last 8 years. Now I think he's got more troops on the ground, like yourself. I think there it is, man. And now we got to go hard. And you know the old saying, Pat, go hard or go home.
That's it. You just said it.
That is so good.
Go hard or go home.
That is so good.
That's right.
Go hard or go home.
That's it.
And then make it very focused and intentional, right? That's when they say do your job and your job only. When you focus on your job, you know what your assignment is. Zaid understands that as a soldier, right? Because when we out here, we protest, we rally, and we go at, it's not to tell us how bad we are. Our attempt is telling us how bad the system is, because the system is bad. Right? You created a culture that we have to break up and continue to fight over to make sure that people know we and this system that you created. And we really don't want to push our people and make them feel comfortable in that way. Oh, we have to.
Yeah. Can you hear him okay?
No, we were having some issues with you. We got you now, Pat. Yeah, he was going in and out for a minute.
Yeah, he had a little static. Yeah.
I think the enemies that be don't want to hear Pat espouse that level of truth, right? I think that's a little too black. That's a little too strong, right? And the powers that be want to mess that up. But Pat, you can't stop this, right? You can't stop it.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Like John Booth wrote, No Man is Island. They all inextricably, we all need each other. All do this stuff alone. We need each other on this journey. And black people, black and brown people, we need each other the more now than we ever needed before. Not just in the transitional state of what's happening in the city, but in the physical and spiritual presence of a generation we can't afford to lose.
Man, Hey, Zaid, we're gonna have to send Pat to go back out and come back in because he said some real important stuff, man. You know what I mean? You
Yeah, this
muted,
gets
Pat.
chopped up. Yeah, yeah.
Hey,
It's
Pat,
chopped up a little
we
bit.
need you to go out and come back in, man. Cause I mean,
Yeah,
all that you
yeah.
said.
You will get some distortion. He was
Yeah,
rolling too.
gotcha.
To
But
part of the point that he was saying, though. I mean, and that's just bringing it back to
Zaid,
what
listen,
Amiri
brother, listen, listen. Nobody knows how to get in them streets, right? Like we do, right?
right.
And I think that that's what we've got to show, right? And I think that's what the people in the city of Newark are waiting for,
Yeah.
right? And that's in every ward, right? That's in every ward, and especially what do is that, right? Think about it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the West Ward is in need of somebody to really get out there and do that level of work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And then not being quiet about it.
No.
That need either. You know, and they shouldn't be. And I'm looking forward to figure out how we can help move that work, because that's one of our most vibrant communities and whatnot. And there's a lot of tradition going on there. And there are transitions too. You know, I mean, the rocks in that community are becoming elders as well, so that need, as you described a few minutes ago, for fresh blood, that infusion is indeed important, and of course the time of that is now. But I'll tell you what I was thinking about as Pat was rolling, something that Amiri used to always say, the folks used to look at, Amiri had this slogan, unity and struggle, right? And folks used to thought that was basically a slogan saying, yeah, we need unity so we can struggle. That's a part of struggle. No, Amiri was trying to show us that we unite on those things that we have in common, right? For particular goals and aims and objectives, and in the interim we struggle with each other, right, for clarification of those goals and tactics and strategies to approach those goals. We have those battles, to reunite, to get ready for the next phase of those fights, and then I remember when Raz first really started, making his moves on the electoral front. Seriously, he said, one of the things that folks don't understand is that you have to learn how to engage with what we call middle forces. Folks who represent the heart of your community, right? Who do not belong to your party, organizational affiliation, any of that, right? But what they do represent, you need to be able to listen to and engage with them, especially when they disagree with you, so you can out what it is that you need to do to unite with them on to move their particular issues forward and to build that bond and to build those fronts, right? And that does not change, right? That does not change, right? No matter the season, no matter the players, that equation is a driving equation in the kind of organizing and the kind of engagement that we all need to share and do to try and get this in. I'm very. I just say, just a step back and just say, as someone that represents, a bit with some age on them, I'm very proud how they have developed, how they've taken their moments seriously, have come forward. Raz ain't by himself. He ain't never been by himself. He ain't never tried to do it by himself. We all got behind him, and that crew that he developed, they're all really trying to make moves and trying to hold our city together and change the face and the character of our community. I hope I live long enough to be the kind of elder to in my 80s, and 90s, to say, I can remember with the young heads that came behind me, turn this thing around, and I don't know if I'm gonna get there.
You'll get there, Zaid.
All kind of bullets coming at me. I was on my ass last week, y'all know.
But hey, we prayed you through, Warrior. Right? We prayed the Warrior through, though.
Oh my goodness, yes, right. And I want to thank everybody who did that too. I should have did that at the top of the show, right? Because it was no joke, right? But but that's real. I mean, we have our moments. That's the Fanon is barking in my head now. Every generation must determine its mission for no matter how obscure or whatever, fulfill it or betray it. And I can dare say I'll smack the hell out of anybody that would dare say that this generation is betraying their mission. Not here in Newark. No, hell no. That's just true. And it's not fair.
That's right.
And here's the thing though, Zaid, and we'll let you go in a minute. We'll let you speak, Pat. But here's the thing: we wouldn't let Pat, nor would we let Raz, right? Nor would we let Do or anybody betray the people, right? That's the difference with who when you say that about them, Zaid, right? Right. That for somebody to make those statements and say that, right? These are the people who argued with people in the council, right? Because they wanted to see the differences and things happen. And remember, I don't know if y'all remember, Raz didn't even want to run for office. And when he made the decision to do it, and even run for mayor, you know what I mean? And so to be able to pull his troops with him and be able to have the kind of people that are riding with you is altogether something different, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing like having your people with you who not only got your back but got your back and your front.
Yeah,
that makes a difference, man.
It makes a serious difference.
That makes a difference.
It makes a serious
That
difference.
makes a huge,
especially when you're trying to manage.
Man. Something he did. I don't know if you brothers can hear me, but something
we hear you.
We hear you good.
Oh, great! Something he did that was so phenomenal at the inauguration. That I've always been trying to get him to do for years, because sometimes people don't understand it. Like sometimes we have to learn to tell a story, because people get lost and fundamentally believe that they've generated the narrative, right? And don't know the story, right? And so even the mayor running for mayor at the opportunity and time that he did, right? There's a story behind that, and nobody but God could have drove that story, because we don't know where this city would be right now. And we can pontificate and we can talk about what we think he didn't do and how he didn't do it. But one thing we don't talk about is the fact that he did it and why he had to do it, to put his neck on the gauntlet. To save a city that he loved, a city that his daddy fought for, a city that his mama was raised in, a city that all of us believed in and didn't have the courage to want to stand up and walk and travel that mile by ourselves. And sometimes we have to tell a story, because if we don't tell a story, then people miss the struggle that was involved in getting us where we are. And character means everything. I heard Zaid say that character is so important. And those are the things that I'm going to tell you how important character is. It's so important that it's the only thing that you have that nobody can destroy, even when they try to attack it.
That's right. Son.
And that's the first because they know they can't go get you nowhere else.
That's right. And on the matter of stories, the question is which one? We got a bunch of them. On this one, we got some stories. Right. So we fully armed on that one.
and those stories saved a whole lot of people. And what's so critical about that is these stories that we have saved a whole lot of people. A lot of people who now talk about us, denigrate us, want to push us to the side, alienate us, and tell us what we're not doing. It was the stories that we have that lifted them, that helped them, that moved them, that put them in the center of where they are now.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. It was those.
Why they have a reason to just go into the council meeting and talk and curse and scream and yell the way that they do now. It was because of the work that we did behind the scenes, the getting arrested, the protesting, the singing in the council, the right to have people to get up and voice a Democrat voice when it was time for them to do it. Not to be disruptive, but to give information that would be like a change.
Yep. That's exactly right. And the reason why these folks can move around the city of Newark the way that they can, right, and the way that they do is because the very people who are now in power really allow them to do that, right? And because we all understand, and But here's the difference, though, Pat. I don't think that any of us, right, were actually disrespectful, right, to the elders who were in power at that time, right? When you think about, all of those folks who were on the council, and you think about the mayor, we had our disagreements, but we weren't disrespectful, right? And we weren't belligerent and disruptive. These
That's right.
folks, man, some of these folks are just out of control. I mean, and that's and I don't know where they got that from, because they most certainly didn't get that from none of us as we were coming through, right? And even if we disagreed, because when you talk about Kadir, when Kadir was in Newark, and the level of Muslims and all of that, and the things that were happening, people which, even though we disagreed, we all were trying to work together.
Yeah, that's true.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
We were trying to work
That's right.
together. And
right.
and so for anybody who would look at that and want to be critical, I mean, it's cool. You can be critical of any one of us, or anybody that's doing anything in the city. Be critical. But here's what you're not gonna do, right? Because Pat Council is my brother, and because Zaid is my brother, and because the mayor's my brother, you're not gonna lie on him. You're not gonna do that.
Right.
Right? You're not gonna say he's doing something or did something to be meaningful or outright hurt you. Well, no, that's not happening, bro. And we're not gonna have that conversation. Now, if you're gonna have that, have it by yourself. But we're not gonna have that. And
That's right.
and I think that's what we've got to get to as a people. Listen, you don't get an elected office, thinking that everything is gonna be peaches and cream. Ain't nobody expecting that. But
No
but
way.
but we're not gonna allow you to lie. We're not gonna allow you to be disrespectful. But here's what we're gonna say is, all of us are willing to work with you and work with anybody in this city who want to work with our brothers and sisters. Y'all want to work with them, we want to work with y'all, right? Because all of us want to move the city of Newark. We want to move it forward, and we want to get it done. And Pat, I can't say, man, any more than saying, man, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of y'all. And I'm glad to be from Newark, right? I can't get a sign big enough on my head that says I'm from Newark, because I know we got the right group of brothers and sisters in the city of Newark right now. Proud of you, Pat. Congratulations, my brother. I think he froze.
I think he froze. Yeah. I think he froze. I guess we could begin to wrap up with him too. Oh, he's trying to break loose.
Are you muted, Pat?
He's trying to get it together. Give him his closing remarks. You're muted, Pat. He's still muted. He's still muted. Still muted. Still muted. He muted, and he's steady rolling.
Hey, Pat, you muted. You muted.
Mic check. Mic check. Mic check.
Well, Pat, we seem to be having some technical difficulty, man. So we want to say thank you, man. We, of course, the last word we would definitely give to you. We appreciate you, man, and just really, man. Anytime you need to come here and talk to the community, as Zaid already told you, man, this is the drum, and just come on through, man.
That's right. That's right. That's right. We look forward to this next chapter on this ride. That's all this is. It's another chapter we're getting ready to write. And it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. Ain't no doubt about it. Ain't no doubt about it. The mayor said the other day, he said, this is after 2 terms, I'm ready to go on offense.
Yeah.
I'm ready to shoot my threes. I'm ready to knock them down.
And he can.
Yeah, and I need folks who are with me to be clear, so I can deal with those folks who ain't with me. Keep moving. So yeah, it's time to really take this to another stage. One of the things is coming up as we get ready for our next segment, and it's one of the things that I personally feel responsible for, is that we have built this anti-violence ecosystem that has done some very good work, right? And the whole notion of dropping our homicides by 50% ain't no joke. and the folks who are doing that are not, men in blue and men with guns. They're young men and women who have been in the trenches on the other side of the equation, coming back now, who are part of the cleanup and the recovery of their community, right? And we want to build that up. We want to continue to build that, but we also have the responsibility of bringing that also to build the bridges between that this restorative justice tradition that's emerging, and merge it with the long-standing, long-distance running social justice tradition of struggle, because they need to learn that piece, right? Because for the resources that we have developed to make this new engine work, right, we're gonna have to fight for those resources like hell, especially what's coming down the pipe with these crazy folks trying to take votes away from us, and all this madness with the right wing. We really need that, our forces to be as politically clear about the challenges and the dangers ahead as now as ever before. And I can't think of a better way to help us transition to the vote. Who's going to come up first for us? Hetty's already here, right? And we're supposed to have a bunch of folks on. I don't see Ali yet, right? Ali's here.
I'm here.
All right, Alejandra is here, right? Larry's not going to jump on until 7:30, right? And we heard.
Let's give Pat the last word so we can let Pat go.
Pat, can you hear us? How you're muted? Go ahead, jump in on and close out, beloved.
Pat, we having all kind of trouble, man, with your sound. But Pat, we just want to say thanks, man. So, we'll look to, catch back up with you, my brother.
Yeah, and thank you, beloved. We're looking forward to the next chapter. We all gonna write it together. Right? Now, Ed, let me introduce these two heavyweights, right, that just joined us, right? And Ali's blushing, and that's all right. We love you for that, sweetie. We love you for that. All right. We have an ongoing discussion on the urgent demands and challenges facing all of us as a consequence of this horrible retrograde overturning of Roe v. Wade, right? And we're gonna keep that discussion as necessary, because we're gonna have to keep rumbling for quite a while to shift this whole power equation to another place, unfortunately. And then Ali, I'm sorry that your generation has to inherit this. That we didn't do enough, so you have to do so much. But the two voices that we have with us now are not just a part of the conversation, they're part of the actual engagement of what that means in terms of mobilizing and organizing our folks to really affect the change and to advance the power that we need to see. Alejandra Sorta is with the reproductive rights team out of the ACLU. ACLU's reproductive rights history is a hell of a history. I'll let her do that. It's one of the cornerstones of ACLU work that is really, I don't know if folks really appreciate it, but it genuinely is. And for all of the backwardness coming out of Washington, there are certain things that are in place and are happening in Jersey that reflect how things should be and how things ought to go, as opposed to how things are going the wrong way coming out of Washington with this backward Supreme Court. Hetty Rosenstein is one of our long distance runners in terms of organizing and mobilizing, particularly on the labor front. And when we were anticipating the fall of this decision, she had 3 rallies in place in 3 different spots already to roll, come out and have. That's how she rolls. That ain't my dog barking. We need a dog to bite Trump and bite Clarence Thomas and some of them people. All right, that's right. Right. All right, he said right on to some of that. I know, baby. So we have 2 powerful hitters on this work. Oh, Dima, you in already. I didn't think you would get on for a few minutes because I know where you're coming from, right? So we have another long distance runner who's becoming a regular with us, right? And that's Dima Chunga Lawrence Hamm, founding chairman of the People's Organization for Progress. And when it comes to mobilizing and protest, right? You get Hetty Rosenstein and Lawrence Hamm together. Some hell is in trouble, right? Hell is in deep trouble.
We hope
welcome
so.
y'all to this segment. This segment is what we call the vote, right? And usually we're talking about, some political dynamics that all depend, around things that in places that we need to go and struggle that ultimately tied to the question of the ballot, right? And this ongoing discussion about Roe versus Wade being overturned and what is now the new challenges that it is presenting all of us certainly belongs in that space. So welcome, right? Let's dig in. Let's get at it. Ali, let's start with you. I want you to tell folks what the ACLU has been doing in the last couple of years, anticipating that this thing might go this way, right? And why we're in a certain place in New Jersey that may be different than a Texas or a Mississippi or Georgia and whatnot, and what that also demands of us, even in this different space. And then I'll let the veterans come in behind us so we can figure out what doors we need to kick in and what streets we need to shut down.
Right there with you, Bubba. Hi, everyone. Good evening. It's so wonderful to be here today. I'm Alejandra, use she, her, ella pronouns. And as Baba Said said, I'm a campaign strategist with the ACLU of New Jersey and working on a wide range of issues, including reproductive freedom. So the ACLU has a long history of working on fundamental rights, including the fundamental right, a constitutional right to abortion that was granted by Roe v. Wade almost 50 years ago, a right that we have seen disseminated in the last few weeks from the conservative majority in the Supreme Court. So I'll start off by saying I'm not a lawyer, so I'm speaking to this from an advocacy organizing perspective, but Roe v. Wade was the fundamental case at the Supreme Court level that protected the constitutional right to abortion care. And that was overturned on June 24th of this year. So almost 50 years of legal precedent completely erased 2 weeks ago. So it's been a whirlwind, but also something that I think advocates and many of us already expected on the ground. And there have been people that have been sounding the alarm, organizers, not only in the most restrictive states, but across the country, who, even when Roe v. Wade passed almost 50 years ago, said this is not enough, we need more, and have been working on the ground to make that a reality. Because Roe v. Wade, while important and as devastating as the decision is, it also, we can't erase the fact that it didn't reach many people, including the most vulnerable people, including low income and people of color. So because the right alone has never been enough and it will never be enough. So it's about access and what it means. So that's I think where we are right now, something that, while expected, still devastating, and that I think folks have been fighting for decades now to not only do defensive work, but also proactive work. And that's where we are in New Jersey. In New Jersey, for the past few years, it's been the fight to ensure that the right is not only protected, but that everyone in the state is actually able to access that right. And that is the fight that many of you might have seen through the Reproductive Freedom Act that we were a part of for the last few years and trying to make possible in New Jersey. And we work with colleagues across the country to not only do reactive and defensive work, but also in states where it's possible to be able to establish strong protections in the face of what's happening with the Supreme Court.
We've got some background noise, so
Ali,
anyone who's not speaking, if everybody could just mute their mics when they're not speaking, that would be helpful.
Yeah, we were getting some feed. We get a little feedback. That's a little better, right? Yeah. So, Ali, let me just throw this out. We're in a situation. We've got a Democratic legislature. We've got a Democratic governor who says he's a progressive and whatnot. How safe or how secure is the question of abortion access and choice here in New Jersey, in spite of this overturning? What should our people in Jersey understand that they have at their disposal in spite of this horrible new development?
Sure. First and foremost, I think start by saying the right is protected in New Jersey through the legislation that passed in January of this year, the Freedom of Reproductive Choice Act. This right was established, and it was protected in our state, despite what happens at the Supreme Court level. This said, the right alone is not enough, and New Jersey, while not part of like the many states that are outright banning abortion, still has a lot of work to do to ensure that this right is actually accessible, because like many other things that we see in these fights are completely interconnected. A person can have the right, but if there are insurmountable barriers to that right, it's not accessible, right? They're not really being able to exercise that fundamental right. And that is the case in New Jersey. And that is what we had been fighting for and are not going to stop fighting for. And that looks like people without immigration status not being able to access their fundamental right to reproductive health care. It looks like people who have to pay hundreds or thousands of dollars sometimes. So is it really accessible? Do you really have the right if there are these barriers in the way? It's like talking about the right to vote, right? If you can have the right to vote, but then if they pass, if you have a million things standing in the way, do you actually have that right? While the right is protected in New Jersey, and that is done through both legislation and the New Jersey Supreme Court also established strong case law. So we have sort of like a double protection to that right. The fight continues to make that right accessible to everyone who needs it.
Hetty, jump in. I know you want to jump on. Just jump on in. I know you want to jump.
Yeah, I think the other part that people need to understand is, even if we have codified certain rights in the state, and it was a struggle to do so. I mean, the package to protect reproductive freedom in New Jersey was available for quite a long time. The governor had been pushing for it. It then was watered down, and it was difficult to actually push through what we had. It turned into only codifying Roe. It didn't have the issues of access and money. But I think we have to realize there are other issues as well. I don't know what it means if we end up with a Republican House and Senate, or we end up with a Republican president and they say, that if you've got something that's federally funded, the insurance can't pay for abortion. I mean, I wouldn't suggest that that's not something that really we will face, right? Or that we won't face more and more companies or insurers refusing to include abortion. So I think the access question is huge. I was 14 years old when I first learned that a friend had had an illegal abortion. And we talked about it. We talked about what would people do if they were pregnant. And then I remember when, friends became sexually active and everybody went to Planned Parenthood to get birth control pills. And I remember when in New York, they passed legal abortion in 1971, I think. I was very, very aware as a young teenager of, that people I knew got pregnant, went away someplace, right? They got sent away someplace. Their lives were ruined, whatever. I remember those years very well. And I think we are a tremendous risk. So while we have protection here in the state to a certain extent, It is an issue. There are still the issues of access, and I don't think this protection, necessarily, will hold. There's in the public sector, a third of the public sector is federal funding. How much is in the school system is federal funding? What if it turns out that we can't use those funds to teach teach about contraceptives? I mean, I think the risks are enormously high right now. And, even though protecting democracy now sits with the states, and, we have done some of this in New Jersey, I think the risks are incredibly high.
Ali, you want to respond to what she said?
100%. And just to add to what Hetty said, I think we can never fully say we're protected. I think we can never sleep on our laurels and say, like, New Jersey's good. We can't just stay with what has been done, and we always need to go for more, because like this fight and what has happened at the Supreme Court level wasn't like from one day to the other. These were decades of people trying to ban abortion. This was decades of work, and that's where we can never say, like, we're okay. Let's not do anything, because they're unrelenting, and we need to be just as unrelenting in our fights and in what we're doing to not only protect but ensure that everyone can access this right. So 100% with Hetty. I think it's, if not now, when? This is the moment to really, like, stand up and say, like, no more, and organize, and this is so deeply connected to so many things. And I think that's where my background was not in reproductive rights and abortion care. My background is in immigration, and in coming to do this work and coming from a country, one of the most restricted countries in the world in terms of abortion, just made it so incredibly clear that this has always been about control. It's always been about racial control. It's always been about class control and about a minority trying to maintain the status quo. When they begin to see loss of power, or when they begin to see organizing. And this is very much part of the struggle for immigrant rights, for criminal legal reform, for immigration reform, because they're all deeply connected, because they come from the same system that is trying to strip all of our communities from our fundamental rights and maintain the status quo of control that is very much rooted in white supremacy.
For the benefit of our audience that doesn't know what some of what you referred to in terms of your own background, your home country was in the news recently, right, about a horrible case directly tied to this issue that sounds horribly about what we need to get ready to face in this country, no matter the perch that we sit on, whether we're in a state that has a reproductive freedom act like we do in New Jersey, or we're a state that's directly under fire like we see in Mississippi, where the case that triggered the overturning came from. Tell folks about where you're from and what happened, and then let's rock that intersectionality for a minute.
Sure. I'm Salvadorian. I come from El Salvador, and I said this recently. I was just thinking about it. I'm almost 35 years old.
We got some feedback, so if everyone who's not speaking, just mute your mics. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yes, no worries. I'm from El Salvador, and I was just thinking about this recently. I'm almost 35, and most of my life it has been either being in a place that it's completely criminalized, that where the right is non-existent. I grew up in El Salvador. I came 10 years ago from El Salvador. So the majority of my life has been seeing what it looks like to not have that right at all, and seeing what the intersections are, and seeing who is impacted by it, because it's not the middle upper class in El Salvador. It's the indigenous, it's the people in rural areas, it's the people that are in poverty, right? The people that are forced to grapple with the consequences of this. And at the end, as I said, it's about control. It's about class control. It's about maintaining control over people's bodies and futures. So coming here, I think it's seeing kind of like that, the deep connections with that as well, because it's very much the same. It's the people that are most impacted here. that's the common denominator in all of this, right? It's grappling with a system that reeks of white supremacy and racism, where this is very much linked to criminalizing poverty, criminalizing people of color. And part of like this movement to ban abortion comes very much from control and the control of people and people of color particularly. So my background is from that, is coming from seeing like what it looks like to be, for a fundamental right to be completely non-existent and criminalized, and what that drives people to do. And it's always the most vulnerable that are impacted by it.
There's a case of a woman's name is Leslie Ramirez, if I'm correct, who was facing a 50-year sentence, by virtue of having losing a child early in pregnancy, right, and being charged with homicide, right. 50 years she could potentially face, right, in El Salvador. So this is not, these battles against the right wing are not just local battles, right? So maybe that's something else that we could even come back to. So let's make it. Let's look at, tell no lies, claim no easy victories. What's ahead that we need to really prepare for as responsible organizers concerned about honoring our moment and honoring our children. Dima, I want you to jump in. You and I are both father daughters, right? And we will do anything, absolutely anything that we must for the well-being and protection of our daughters and their right to be in charge of their own destiny, right? What's ahead? There's a real effort to criminalize this work. And what's ahead, and what is it? What are our immediate tasks that we need to be calling people to that have not gotten the message yet?
Well, if I could jump in real quick and just say, people need to register and they need to vote in November, because the danger to women's reproductive rights did not end with this recent Supreme Court decision in the Dobbs case. The greater danger is that if Republicans get control of the House and they get a larger than 50 member majority in the Senate, they're going to pass a national law. They're going to outlaw abortion nationally, right? And they've said as much. This is not a secret. This is not a speculation. Right after, the day of the Dobbs decision, some of them were saying that when they get control, that's how they see it. That's not how I see it, but they say when they get control, they're going to outlaw abortion nationally. Just like when we had control, we made it possible for a woman to get a safe and legal abortion nationally. They're going to outlaw it. So, I mean, there are a lot of things I'm sure that Hetty and our sister Alejandra, did I say that right? I don't see your name here, but if
yes,
I have
you said it perfect.
Thank you. I know there are other things that they're going to say, but the fight is on. This is a fight this is an epical fight. They just overturned 50 years of legal precedent after lying in front of congressional committee, saying that Roe was settled law, giving people the impression that they did not overturn Roe. They've just overturned 50 years of legal precedent. So your daughter, Zaid, and my daughter are going to have less rights than their mothers had. So people got to come out. But this is not a joke. And people can say what they want to say about all the flaws of the Democrats, and they got flaws, and they're deserving of criticism. But if we let these fascists get control of the Congress, they will outlaw, they will make it, a woman won't be able to escape from a red state and come to a blue state. abortion will be outlawed. Not only are they outlawing abortion, they want to outlaw medical abortion. That is like the pill. What's that pill called? What is it? The pill that women take for self-abortion. You know.
Yeah, there's two different ones.
Right. So whatever the pills are, they want to make it illegal for those drugs, just like heroin and cocaine. They want to outlaw those drugs so that women cannot have a medical self-abortion. They want to outlaw contraception. See, I'm not only old enough to remember when abortion was not legal, I'm old enough to remember, believe it or not, it was against the law at one time to have for married couples to have condoms. There were laws about condoms. It's crazy when you think about this, right? But they don't want contraception. They don't want medical abortion. They want to outlaw gay marriage. They want to regulate people's sexual activity. And although he didn't mention it when Clarence Thomas gave the list of all the things they're going to go after, including contraception and gay marriage, by outlawing Roe, it also puts in danger interracial marriage. Because remember, interracial marriage was against the law as late as what, 1960? When was the Loving case decided? It was decided in the 60s. I think the late 60s, as a matter of fact. So Clarence Thomas, his own marriage could be endangered by this decision in Roe. So this decision in the Dobbs case in terms of how it affects Roe. So people got to vote. People got to register other people. And then the way we came out in mass, it's not like we need a miracle from on high. All people have to do is come out and vote in the numbers that they voted in the presidential election, or even in the gubernatorial election, because the gubernatorial vote in New Jersey was almost as big as the presidential vote in 20, the gubernatorial vote in 21. All we got to do is come out and vote in those numbers, and we can win and hold back this fascist tidal wave that's going on. They want to change this whole thing. I'll leave it there.
Jump in, Annie. Jump in.
Yeah, so I think there's another thing that I agree with everything that Larry said. I think we should be looking at something. There are more and more armed counter-protesters coming to abortion demonstrations. The Proud Boys, these 3% militias, these groups are connecting to one another, and they are coming to demonstrations armed. And now we are going to have this everywhere, where they're going to come with open carry, scary, horrifying weaponry to try to intimidate people and send them underground, which is my biggest fear. And I'll tell you, I mean, when I was young and when there was no legal abortion, finding women safe abortions, that was a revolutionary act. When people got arrested for it, it was very, very dangerous. These were very political actions that were taking place. It wasn't pregnant women who were finding safe abortions. It was women who weren't pregnant finding safe abortions for other women. There's this HBO show about Call Jane. I think it's called Jane, or May I Speak to Jane, which took place in the University of Chicago, where a group of women ended up finding 11,000 people safe abortions. So this is, we will be in this place where people will have to risk in order to protect others. I am worried about violence. And I think violence is a huge part of this issue about control. I don't think that it is an accident that, they've wanted to have open carry for a very long time. I don't think it's an accident that decision came out 2 days before the Roe decision. Or maybe it was 1 day. I can't remember. And I think it was 1 day.
They were close together.
Yeah, they came together and they are together. And the issue of control is exactly right. And the risks are very, very high. And so, yes, these midterm elections may be our last shot at having an elected response, being able to respond on an electoral level to stop something, just as electing Biden, frankly, was at that moment. I think that if we lose, if the Senate goes Republican, if we lose the House to the Republican Party, then we will be talking about very different kinds of politics and protecting people in a very different way, I think.
Yeah.
The F word, and I'm not talking about the 4-letter one. I'm talking about the 7-letter one. Come up, and we need to talk about it. We need to talk about it plainly too, right? So I'm gonna just throw this question out. We when we in those days when we won Roe v. Wade and we won certain big cases, many of those cases were bipartisan in the character of those decisions, many of them, right? What has happened to the Republican Party? It is a very different party than the party that had folks who were able to side with the Roe v. Wade or a Civil Rights Act of 1964 and a Voting Rights Act of 1965. What has happened to this construct called the Republican Party? Because I don't think some folks really understand that. And any of y'all just jump in, because we just let's undress what we're looking at for a minute.
It is a fascist party. It's a fascist party now. It doesn't mean that there aren't some Republicans who are not fascist, but the party itself, its structure, its funding, its establishment at this point is a fascist party. And the Supreme Court has been taken over by a majority fascist element. I mean, Larry and I were at a meeting, I don't know how long ago, I think when Trump first came in, and we were talking about something being proto-fascist.
Yes.
But I've dropped proto.
That's right.
I've dropped it.
And Neo too, and Neo too. We dropped Neo.
We used to use that one.
Yeah, because I think once you add violence, I mean, I keep coming back to this violence issue because I really think it is critical. But once you add violence and once you add killing people and threat of violence and street level Nazi behavior being supported by the government, well, you're into fascism.
Dima, you've been saying that for a minute. Why don't you
well, Hetty said it right. It's a fascist party. It's a white nationalist party, and it's Trump's party, at least for the moment. Now, I don't know if people have been following what's going on in Florida, but Florida is like the land that time forgot. And I don't know if you heard the latest, Hetty, from Ron DeSantis. He's trying to turn Florida into DeSantistan, but they want now political tests for all the professors that are at state universities, because DeSantis is saying that these liberal professors are poisoning the minds of students at state universities. And this is reminiscent of the McCarthy era. And so what they're going to do, they're going to distribute these these surveys, so that students can rate their professors on the scale from liberal to conservative. My question is, once they do this rating, what will be done with that information? And what will happen to those professors who are rated as liberal or left-leaning? See, this is very dangerous stuff that's going on. This is the same, and that's how this is related to Black people's struggle, our struggle for voting rights, because the same people that have outlawed, that made the decision in the Dobbs case and have now outlawed abortion in 20, almost, what is it now? The 26 red states. I think in 9 states, it's already gone into effect. In the other states that are controlled, they're in transition. But the same people that outlawed abortion are the same people that are trying to suppress our voting rights. There were anti-abortion bills, over 100 bills introduced. I think it was in almost 30 states. But in terms of voter suppression bills, there were 440 voter suppression bills introduced in 49 states. This is a movement. It's not just a movement against women. Women is part of it, but this is a movement to set up a kind of fascist white minority rule.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think this is exactly right. This is a movement, and it is a grassroots movement. It is, you know, it is deeply felt. It is widely felt. It is, you know, led at a street level by young, well, not necessarily young, but white, male, violent, and armed people. And it is a movement. It is, I think there is no question about that. And, you know, the risks have never been higher. Never, ever been higher.
Right.
Let me throw this
today,
out. Go ahead, just to mark, because I want y'all, and it's where I thought you were going to go, but you pivoted to Florida, Adema. But I want to come back to Washington, where you know everything is not in their hands yet, right? There is a Justice Department that has some authority still, right, and some responsibility still. There are these hearings about the January 6th insurrection going on, right? Do we see any light coming from those beacons, from those places? Or is there some light that we need to see in order to help stay the hand of this fascist turn?
Well, there's light. There's light in Georgia. In Georgia, the Attorney General in Georgia has subpoenaed a number of people. She's going after Trump on voter tampering. And they're going after Lindsey Graham. Who did they just subpoena? They subpoenaed Giuliani, and they subpoenaed Lindsey Graham in the case down there in Georgia, you know, where Trump had asked the Secretary of State down there to find him 11,000 votes.
Right.
Because that was enough to be needed.
11,780.
That's right.
That's right. Thank you, Hetty. He was very specific.
That's right.
And that he ain't done that wrong. Oh my
so
God.
But you know what was interesting though, Larry? There was an article that was released, and his attorneys were saying that this would hinder Lindsey Graham from being able to do his job if they don't dismiss that subpoena. I've never heard that before. Right?
There going to be a lot of things you never heard before.
And what's interesting is I'm a lawyer, and I called one of my professors and I said, "Let me ask you a question. How come you never taught me that?" He said because that doesn't exist.
That's right. That's right. This is a dangerous place. As Hetty said, this is a dangerous place we're in right now. I tell you what else they're going after. They're going after Brown. They're going after Brown.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Right. They're going after Brown. And remember, the Brown decision does not just apply to education. The Brown decision is cited in every major
civil rights
federal anti-discrimination case.
That's right.
In employment, in housing,
in education. That's right.
Employment, housing. So anything that's been held up, anything against discrimination has been held. They're going to knock out Brown. And remember, it came out when Amy Coney Barrett was confirmed as a Supreme Court justice. It was revealed that in her writing, in her legal writing, that she even questions the legitimacy of the 13th Amendment. These people have a totally different vision for America, and they're on the move to implement that.
Well, and they just struck a huge blow against the separation of church and state. They just managed to do that. There's more, much more to come. I want to give one more light, though, that I do think is there. I don't know where it goes or if it is going to be great enough. But I don't think it's an accident that we are seeing more union organizing. I think this is a struggle for democracy at the workplace. And so I'm hoping that, and it's small. I mean, it's a lot more than it's been for years and years, but it's still very small and very difficult. But it is taking place. There is more union organizing that has gone on for a very, very long time. It's young people. It's Black and brown people. It's a lot of essential workers. So I do feel that is a light, because that is a real effort at a blow for democracy at the workplace. And once people gain that kind of power and see how that works, it does, I think, change their politics, sort of their brain chemistry in a very fundamental way. So I do feel like that is a little bit of light. I do think the January 6th hearings have been, well, frankly, a lot better than I thought they were going to be in terms of their effectiveness.
No, they're very good. They're very good.
And it is true also that we could win the midterms. It is not a given. We can win.
Yes.
That's my take on the value of the hearings. They're creating a bit. It might be a small fraction, but they're creating a fraction with folks who were leaning towards all this madness and who may now have to shift because they have some real information, as opposed to a whole bunch of crazy right wingers saying that the truth is a lie and the lie is the truth.
Murphy was not supposed to win the gubernatorial election of 21. They were saying over and over again that no Democrat had won a second term for 35 years.
40
years.
More than 40 years.
And he almost didn't win, Larry.
But he did win. But here's the thing, he won.
Oh, yeah.
People, this is what people do. They say, but he almost didn't win, but he won. And just as Murphy won the gubernatorial election, we can win these congressional elections. What we have to do is not engage in voter suppression. Because when we repeat all this stuff that these pundits are talking about, Democrats can't win, the Democrats can't win, you're setting up a self-fulfilling prophecy. You don't want the Democrats to win. There's only going to be two outcomes in November. Either the Republicans are going to win or the Democrats are going to win. There's not going to be a third party winning this election. There's no third party that has representation. It's either going to be a Democratic win or Republican. And I would say for Black people, for working people, and for poor people, it would be in our interest to have the Democrats win. Because these fascists, they want to take us back to slavery. It might be wage slavery, but it'd be slavery nonetheless.
Larry,
This is not just against voting rights. They're trying to turn back 100 years of social progress. These Republicans want to get rid of Social Security. They want to get rid of Medicare and Medicaid. They've said as much. This is not just me talking. Like, you can look it up right now.
And have been saying so for years.
The senators who have already said they're going to sunset Social Security in 5 years. How many of us could live out here in our retirement without Social Security?
Well, and I think the other thing is, they just they agreed to take up a case on the independent state legislators. They just agreed to take this case up at the Supreme Court.
Yes.
This case, you could have them come up with, you can't challenge if a state legislature decides that they're going to shut down polling places in every Black and brown community. You will not be able to challenge that outside of that state. I mean, you're not going to be able to, you won't be able to challenge if they change the electors. They just decide we don't like who was elected. I mean, it's so extreme.
It's the Moore case. Isn't it the Moore case, Hetty?
Yeah.
Moore, M-O-R-E.
I think it's North Carolina. Is that what it is?
Right. I think it's North Carolina versus Moore. It would give the state legislatures the power to ignore the popular vote, ignore the electors of who won the election, and substitute their own electors.
To legalize what Trump was doing that was illegal.
Exactly.
You are creating all of the conditions for dictatorship. It creates the conditions for dictatorship where it nullifies voting. But I do think, again, we could win. I do think, this is not, there's a very, very powerful, large minority, right? 30% or whatever, but, but it's not, but that's what it is. It's not, we could win. We could move it.
I think Hetty and Larry have just made sorry, Zaid. I'll just jump in first.
Go jump in, Alex.
I think Hetty and Larry had just made it so perfectly crystal clear that how everything is so connected, right? And how this is a call to action for every single one of us. This is not a moment of oh, but that decision doesn't affect me. Oh, but they're coming for all of it, right? And this is a moment where it's yes to voting, but going beyond. It's a moment for full-blown grassroots organizing. It's a moment for an intersectional movement that connects worker rights with immigrant rights, with reproductive rights. Because like you all said, they're coming for education, they're coming for states' rights, they're coming for every single one of it. And this is if not now, when? And with elected officials is also accountability. Voting but accountability have to go hand in hand. And right now, this requires unapologetically leadership from our elected officials that are not just going to stay on the sidelines in this moment. And it's on us to demand that from them. So it's voting and organizing, voting and accountability, voting and talking to my family about this, voting and bringing 10 people to the polls with me. It's all of it goes hand in hand. And it really is a call to action from every single one of us.
I'm glad you said that. Yes. Yeah, I'm a street fighter from Plainfield, New Jersey, right? You gotta, so I got some knuckleheads jumping me. I'm gonna stop this. I'm gonna take the leader. I'm gonna take the leader of these knuckleheads down, right? Looking at the hearings, come back to January 6th, right? who should the Department of Justice take down to make an example out of, right? To back some of these crazy folks up.
Well, obviously Trump, but all of those elected members of Congress who participated in January 6th have to come right at them. They gave tours. They let them in. You know, they have to come at those folks as well.
Oh my goodness.
Hetty, I would go so far as to say even the 108 House of Representative members that voted against the certification of the electors, of the electoral vote, they're part of the conspiracy as far as I'm concerned.
They are.
They are as guilty as the ones that were opening the doors for the insurrectionists to come in. They're as guilty. They are part of the conspiracy. They were all a team. It's a team. Like those of us that played sports in high school, get that team mentality. Members on the Supreme Court, members in the House, members in the Senate, members in federal agencies, they're people. Who is the guy? What was his name? The one that wrote the memo and told the National Guard to stand down on January 6th. The one that wrote the memo that told them not to arm themselves, not to use batons, not to use tasers, not to have it. That's part of the conspiracy. They were all part of the conspiracy. It was no accident. I mean, can you imagine that? I mean, just think about this. At least 2,000 people stormed the Capitol, came there to kill the vice president, to kill the Speaker of the House, to kill other members of Congress, tore up the place. And in that same place, that night, 108 members of Congress voted against certifying the election.
A legal election, right?
Jesus. See, this is why it's been so hard to convict Trump, because it's hard for the government to convict itself.
That's right.
The government was part of the conspiracy. Half of the elected representatives of the government were part of the conspiracy. That's why Trump wasn't impeached, wasn't found guilty. It wasn't because he wasn't guilty. It was because all the gang members were part of it.
That's right.
You ain't got to be a genius to figure it out.
That's right.
Ed, Larry, let me say this. It's my modest judgment because we share a responsibility that's in front of us with the convention, the 50th anniversary convention. I am of the mindset that we need to retool what comes out of that as a massive GOTV effort, right? To get out the vote effort on all fronts, and we reconvene afterwards around those other issues that we were originally wanting to talk about. I think the die has clearly shifted sharply, in very real terms that requires us to make that shift ourselves, right? And Nadima, you were there in '72. Right, we were just coming into the vote back then, right? We're in a very perilous situation right now. What are your thoughts on what I just said?
Oh, I think you're exactly right, and I want to commend Ed and all the other 50th anniversary folks that have been pushing this convention real hard. I know they've been pushing it uphill because they've had to change the date a few times, but don't despair. They're gonna make it happen, and I think you're right. I think that one of the things that has to come out of the convention is a massive GOTV, because it's not enough to register people. We got to get them to the polls, but along with that, we have to have the Black agenda. I mean, that's what should come out of a 50th anniversary of the Gary Convention, the National Black Political Convention. There must be a Black agenda. We must have that. And we must make it clear to our representatives that, they have to deal with it. I mean, I don't want to be misconstrued, because even though I want to see a Democratic victory in November in terms of holding on to the House and increasing the majority so that there's a real majority, because really a split, it's a 50-50 split in there now, but a real majority. Even though I want that, I am not uncritical of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is deserving of all the criticism we can give it. I mean, we here in New Jersey, like Ed was trying to point out, Black people helped get Murphy over because he won by a slim majority. Black and Latino.
Essex County, Hudson County came in late for him. That's how he won.
The urban areas, the Black and Latino vote helped push Murphy over the finish line. But we haven't gotten any of the bills that we've been asking for out of the state legislature. We haven't gotten same-day registration. We haven't gotten the reparations bill. We haven't got the police review board with subpoena power bill. Tell you the truth, we ain't hardly got a damn thing as far as our specific bills are concerned. Yes, they've done some things, minimum wage and prisoners can vote and other things that they've done, but that's not all we're asking for. We're asking for some very specific things that affect Black people. I mean, y'all can't even pass a damn reparations study commission. It's not like the bill is for reparations. It's not like it's a bill, $1 trillion bill for reparations for all the Black people in New Jersey. It's for a damn study commission. You can't pass that after we kept y'all in power for the last 6 years?
Make it plain.
I mean, come on. You come around here begging for our votes all the time. We come out and give you the votes. We can't get a damn study commission out of the legislature. In fact, they don't even want to call it reparations.
That's right. That's right.
They want to call it a what? They don't even want to say the word.
That's right. That's right.
And whatever movement we can build in terms of stopping these fascists, we got to use that same movement to make the Democrats accountable and do what they're supposed to do, because they're not doing it. They think they have us in a trick bag. Like, we don't have no other lover. Like, you can't get it from us and you ain't got nobody else to get it from. Oh no, we can go in another direction. Look, I'm 68 years old. When I came into this world, Black people were on the bottom, and it looks like when I get ready to leave, Black people are going to still be on the bottom.
That's right. That's right.
And that's unacceptable. In fact, they trying to take us back. They trying to take us back to Plessy. In fact, Senator Cornyn, the day after they got the Dobbs decision from the Supreme Court, you know what he you know what he tweeted out? Plessy versus Ferguson next. Brown versus Board of Education. He had Plessy versus Ferguson / Brown Board of Education. Cornyn, Senator Cornyn from Ohio. Text that.
That's the moment we're living in. It's the moment we're living in. Hetty, Allie?
Well, we do what we've been doing. We fight. And I mean, I think the other piece that we recognize, we're going to fight really hard in terms of these elections. The other thing we have to do is really build solidarity. And I think that is the lesson of intersectionality, is to build solidarity. We will not survive this without solidarity, without fighting for each other, and without the rage that Larry was just expressing and sharing it with each other. And so I do think that's where we are. We fought all of these years. I mean, at least us old folks here, we've fought for all of these years, so we're certainly not going to stop now.
Allie?
Same, solidarity, intersectional. It's a movement of all of us, for all of us. We take care of each other, and they're coming for all our rights, and there's no alternative. There's not an option other than fighting. And I'm just hoping that everyone will join us and speak out, vote, organize, do all the things, because it's now or never.
And let me say this, and I want folks to climb up on your shoulders, Allie, because you're the youngest one here, and we appreciate you. And it's your generation, your age group, they be the linchpin, and I hate to even use that language, right? As to how far we go or don't go in 2022 with the solidarity that we need, right? Demon, what you laying out with the cowardice and the limitations of the Democratic Party is been forcing us to fight within our own community over our capacity to mobilize our young to vote, right? So we need our young legs, those young legs that gave us the epic summer of protest that was 2020, epic summer of protest of 2020. Millions of young people, black, brown, and white together, came out, shutting streets down from the northeast all over the country, right? That's the kind of mobilization, and I'm supposed to be asking y'all questions. Of course, I'm on my roster page, but just making it plain, because the audience that we have, there's a message that we want to get over to the audience that we have, and we have an intergenerational, multiracial audience, but its age base is those of us or those of y'all who really belong to what we call the hip-hop generation, now in its second generation, right? We need y'all to really get this. We need y'all to really get this. This is a particular moment, and if we need to make this stand now. Let each of you have some closing remarks. I know Ed has a question that he wants to ask you, that we ask all of our guests. Allie, this is your first time on, right? So I think you've been briefed on this already, from what I'm told. So what closing remarks do you have, particularly if there are points of action, the actions coming up that we need to lift up and get folks to? Share those out, and then Ed's going to ask you a question that we need y'all to answer.
Closing remarks is, we stand on your shoulders, and I think we're a feisty bunch and we're ready, and just hoping that everyone will see this as a call to action, that they will join any movement in their communities around them, in their state, across the country, and just like, this is not a moment to stand on the sidelines. This is a moment to fight. This is a moment to organize. And any of the issues that you care about, be sure that they're deeply connected to all the issues. And it's the moment for an intersectional, strong movement full of solidarity and power. It's, as Saeed said, all power to the people, always and forever.
Right on, baby. Right on. Hetty?
Well, thank you so much for having me. And
this is just your first time on with us, isn't it, Hetty?
I think it is, yeah.
You got to fix that. That's for damn sure.
And, I'm really glad I came on. This is a very, very hard time for us, but I do think that it is extremely helpful to be talking to each other and to be expressing solidarity and sharing rage and courage. And I guess that is the final thing that I would say. In the face of what we have here, we have to have courage, because that is what we're going to need. And I think that if we hold on to that, we will get there. We have always been courageous, and it's always been what has given us the courage of our convictions, have always allowed us to kind of do the impossible. And I think we're going to do it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fascism turns on force and fear. Right on to that, baby. Right on. Right, Ademo.
Yes. I just want to say that there are 3 important events coming up this week. On Tuesday, July 12th at 1:30. We're going to we're, we're, we're going to the Essex County Court for the next court session for the Rodwell Spivey brothers, who were the victims of racial profiling in Newark. That's at the Essex County Courthouse, which is 50 West Market Street. It's called the Veterans Courthouse. And that's Tuesday, July 12th at 1:30. It's on the 11th floor in the courtroom of Judge Raven. And we're asking everyone to come who can to sit in and observe the court proceedings, because we know that when people are there to support folks, the outcome is always better. So come out. And then Tuesday evening at 5 p.m., we will have our annual commemoration of the 1967 Newark Rebellion. That will take place at the Rebellion Monument, which is 250 Springfield Avenue at the intersection of Springfield Avenue and 15th Avenue in Newark, New Jersey. So that's Tuesday, July 12th, 5 o'clock at the Rebellion Monument, 250 Springfield Avenue in Newark, New Jersey, right there where all the roads meet, 15th Avenue, Springfield Avenue, and Irvin Turner Boulevard.
Years ago, the 55th anniversary. Yes,
55th, right. And then the last thing, yes, and then the last thing is on Friday, July 15th, we're going to have a march and rally to demand justice for Jalen Walker. He was the 25-year-old man that was shot 60 times, fired upon 90 times, and shot. He was hit 60 times, 60 bullets. He was killed by the police in Akron, Ohio. And what has happened since then, he was just killed last week. The mother of, I believe it's the aunt of Breonna Taylor. I think it's the aunt or mother of Breonna Taylor, and the father of Jacob Blake were at a demonstration to demand justice for Jalen Walker, and the police beat them up.
That's right.
I saw the footage, and they arrested them.
Yes.
Yes. So this is outrageous. I mean, Amadou Diallo, 41 shots. Amadou was hit 19 times.
That was 1999. And that was
Sean Bell,
the beginning of the end of that. And they continue to outdo themselves with that madness. But people marching and rallying around the country in support of those folks, that's solidarity.
Right. So everybody come out Friday, July 15th, 4:30. We're going to meet at the Lincoln Monument, 12 Springfield Avenue, at the intersection of Springfield Avenue and West Market Street, to march to demand justice for Jalen Walker, shot 60 times, shot and killed 60 times by the Akron, Ohio police.
And I'll add to that very quickly, because the following day is the anniversary of Eric Garner, which is going to be a street in Staten Island, which is a beachhead for fascism in New York City, by the way. Right?
Absolutely.
Named after him, and Ed, we will likely have Gwen Carr, his mother, on with us next Friday to talk about the national tour that she's on as an expression of her own solidarity around the question of police brutality. Look forward to that. Ed, you want to ask our folks that quick question that everybody has to get a taste of? Right? Yeah, sure. Before we go into our next segment.
So you all
on deck, she ready to ride. I know.
So we are a political hip hop radio talk show, and what we do here is that we try to focus on the consciousness that exists in hip hop music, and we focus on the political side of it from a Chuck D perspective, Fight the Power, from a Gil Scott perspective, in terms of keeping the message in the music. So the question we ask everyone is, what is it that you all are currently listening to on the hip hop side? Male, female, rap, group, whatever it is that you're listening to that is giving you some encouragement these days. Ali, we'll start with you.
Sure. And I'll
That's
just say I
probably
love
easy
this.
for her.
No, I love this question because music has been such an incredible part of movements, not only here, but across the world. And I grew up with what my mom used to listen to in times of the Civil War in El Salvador, which we would call protest music. So it's just like such an incredible and strong part of building movement and solidarity and the struggle that we all that connect us all. So I will say I listen to a lot of music in Spanish. So I listen to what used to be Calle 13, now Residente. But I will say the album that I go to all the time whenever I'm feeling down is Miss Lauryn Hill's Miseducation. I will say that's the album that I have on loop, and I'm also very much a Rage Against the Machine gal. So that's the Battle of Los Angeles is my go-to whenever I'm need that.
And Allie, you know, I want to just and let's listen to what she said, you know, and I'm sure Rhino's going to join us in a little while. Our host DJ, right? But we can have a discussion about a show about those musics that you're talking about coming from your community that are not in the lexicon of hip hop as we know it, right? And of course, once our kids hear it, you know what they're gonna do with it. It's gonna, you know, they're gonna take it, you know, and it's gonna go somewhere. So that's something we can talk about. So we can definitely come back to that whole thing too. I'm glad you lifted that up. Right on, right? Dima, I know what you're going to say. Let Hetty go next. you muted Hetty.
Yeah. Old and not very hip. So I listen to the same music that I always listen to. I do listen to a lot of protest music, but it is a range of, you know, from my earliest years that are like Pete Seeger, but it probably does close out around, you know, Leonard Cohen. Maybe I get to John Legend. And then the other part is I like opera. So it's not quite this part of music, but I love this. I love music, almost all music. So
right. Well, I got a grandmother that used to play for Marian Anderson.
Wow.
God bless both of them souls. Yeah. My father.
And what did she play?
Well, I mean, you know, Marion's repertoire. You know, we had this thing in the black community called the Chitlin Circuit, where our stars moved through the black community from south to the north. Right. My grandmother was based in Atlantic City, and Marian Anderson was based in Philadelphia. So they had a relationship, you know, and she accompanied them. And that's a part of my family's lore that I just learned about recently. But you know, so you know, it's all there.
There continues to be really, really interesting. You know, there's interesting opera in terms of black opera singers. It's just a very fascinating area.
When Marcella said, "Ain't nothing but some more music," right? And that's my generation. You know, on the jazz front. Dima, who you rocking now?
Well, I'm gonna give him a shout out because I heard him last night. I was watching him online last night, and that's KRS-One. He's still out there, and he's still pushing, you know, music with a revolutionary message. So I give the brother a shout. He's been out there a long time. KRS-One been out there a long time, and he's still out there, you know. So, but
he's
my all
to Newark too, by the way, in terms of what he's doing right now.
Right. But I also want to give out a shout out to someone you have on the show all the time, and that's Brother Green.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Hakeem Green.
Hakeem.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Hakeem works closely with KRS-One.
Man, Hakeem
just dropped it out.
Let me tell you something. My respect. I've known Hakeem for maybe about 5 years, maybe longer than that. I think I met Hakeem around the time Roz ran for mayor the first time. That'd be like 14. So it's been a while. But based on the interviews that you got, that All Politics of Our Local have done with Hakeem over the last, you know, year or so, my respect for that brother has vaulted. I mean, because every time he speaks and he speaks about the music industry,
That's
he
right.
gives such a penetrating political economic
There
analysis.
you go. There you go.
I mean, I'm like, when I finish listening to him, I'm speechless. And he has the experiences to back it up. Like he can back up everything he's saying with like the experiences that he has had in the hip hop industry. So my big props, big respect to Hakeem Green, and I wish him much success. He fighting an uphill battle, you know, trying to be a
We all are,
progressive,
though.
a revolutionary rapper in that industry, you know.
Yeah,
Yes,
he would have had a different type of career had he made the kind of music that the A&R folks was asking him to make.
Exactly.
But of course, he refused to do that because of the place that he comes from. I'm not talking about the physical place, but I'm talking about the internal spiritual place that he comes from.
Yep.
And so he had refused to make those kind of records.
Absolutely.
Well, I got,
and that's one of the
much
reasons why we ought to support it.
much
That
respect.
takes character. That's right. And he brought us KRS One for 24 hours apiece last year. Sure did.
Yeah.
Right. So like I said,
So-
KRS One is actually moving closer to what we're doing right here in this town. Right. So right on, y'all, powerful segment. Right. I hope everybody appreciates it. Right. This is no time to be bystanders. Hetty, glad to finally have you on. This will not be your last time. Ali, you know, we've been waiting to get you on. Right. So, and you know, I'm glad you're finally here too, daughter. Right. We appreciate you. Right. And the demon's a regular here now. So, you know, we ain't got to go no further. None of that. Right. We get back next week, probably. Right.
I want to say hello to Sister Raquel. Good to see you, sister.
Oh, I can tell you a story about her, but I want to get to a segment because I don't want her to lose any more time.
She be on the front line. She be like, Raquel, you want to speak? No, I don't want to speak. No, I don't want to speak. Then when she
But
get
when
on
she
the
does,
mic, she blow it out.
that's right.
Blow it out.
Sure does. That's right. That's right. All right, y'all. Beautiful segment. We appreciate you. Right. Right.
Peace.
On to the next fight. On the next battleground. That's how we get down. Raquel.
Right.
You've heard a good chunk of that discussion. I think we knocked her out by accident. We got to bring her back in. But Raquel,
good evening.
there you go. Okay, there you go. Yeah, we got. You heard the back end of that discussion, right?
Yeah,
and I want to absolutely have you have some words, you know, about what you heard and how that relates to your own work. And then, of course, we'll take a dive into the emergence of the Salvation and Social Justice Street Team, right? In Trenton, because that's another step in the development and the evolution and the emergence of the organization's work that certainly would be welcome wherever it emerges, and certainly our folks in Trenton absolutely need it. So, but let me sharpen the question to you, right? We just had a police licensing bill that gave us a couple of things that we wanted in that bill, but there's a whole lot of things that it didn't give us, and it has not been signed by the governors yet. Why don't you give us a quick overview of where that's at and what we should do before the governor signs it?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for allowing me the space to come here and talk about this important issue, Bubba. Our viewers may or may not know that in terms of police licensing, New Jersey is one of 3 states that currently does not have one, right? So we're talking Texas, Florida, even they are ahead of New Jersey in that respect. What this legislation would do was it would empower the Police Training Commission to issue, suspend, or revoke police licenses for every agency of law enforcement in the state, right? So the idea is that it creates this certification process, which would require you to, it would put the onus on police officers to show that they are in fact, that for them to be certified in order to continue practicing or engaging in law enforcement. And then I think some of the most important things of the legislation is that it stipulates that anybody who is decertified while working at one police agency or law enforcement agency would be ineligible for hire at other agencies throughout the state. So that's very important. Part of the issue with these police shootings and these instances of police misconduct is the issue of the wandering officer, right? You just jump from one agency to the next. So, what this legislation would do is that it would basically make you ineligible for hire. Most importantly, also, is that it would establish, it would require agencies to report the decertification of officers to a national database. So there's something called the National Decertification Index, in which officers who have been decertified would have to be reported to that national database. And then, of course, agencies in other states, upon engaging in the hiring process, will be able to see who's been decertified and who isn't, right? So that's important. That's no small thing, right? I think what's worth mentioning, however, is that because we're one of the few states one of the last states to establish a program like this, and the fact that we tend to trend highest in issues of police abuse throughout the state, throughout the nation, there are areas where the bill just isn't strong enough, right? And we have to lift that up. We have to make that known. That these areas of weaknesses can essentially take this bill for something that has the potential of having real teeth to something that's just a well-intended piece of legislation. So that's really our critique of the bill, is that it's just not as strong as it should be or as it could be, given the amount of time that it's taken.
Make it plain. What are those things that the bill needs?
Yeah, so we can start right off the top with the composition of the Police Training Commission and the licensing committee that's been established, that the commission would be establishing through the legislation. Right now, it's incredibly police heavy, right? Law enforcement heavy. So why is that an issue? Well, you establish a situation where police are essentially policing themselves, right? So it doesn't serve to establish any kind of diversity of viewpoint, or even be representative of the communities that these police or law enforcement officers are tasked with protecting and serving. So that's a huge issue, and it really just doesn't meet the standard that we see in other states that have currently rolled out this a similar program, right? Another issue is that is surrounding the issue of enforcement mechanisms, right? How do you get agencies to do what they're supposed to do, right? There are no enforcement mechanisms. What is a statute without consequences if agency chiefs fail to report the necessary information? There are none, right? And that's not provocative, and that's not anything that should be an issue. That's pretty standard, and yet and still that's not in the legislation. So right now, what you have is a statute with no real teeth, right? There's no real sense of how you're going to reprimand or require people to comply. And also vesting the commission with subpoena power and the authority to secure cooperation from other agencies. We recommended that there be that language included in there, and it is not, right? Subpoena power, we know, is a big deal. We've seen it demanded in our fight for CCRBs and the like. Right. And here we are again, right? They're skating from that. So, and then I think also there's language in there that stipulates that sustained findings of misconduct should be used as a precondition for reporting obligations or discipline to the Police Training Commission. Why is that a problem? Well, we know that if you have to wait for the entire discipline process to be played out, there could be it really ties the hands of the commission to serve as a backstop for any kind of misconduct. So what we're saying is that anybody should be able to report instances of misconduct to the commission and have that be documented. And as legislation is right now, it doesn't do that.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. Now, so what can folks do between now and the time the governor gets a chance to sign this?
Well, the tea leaves suggests that this is going to pass. That the governor is going to sign it, right? So what people need to do is we need to start galvanizing and mobilizing around what to do afterwards, right? And there are things that we can do afterwards. This is why they say the fight for justice is not for the swift, but those who can endure, right? There's always something more that has to be done and something more that we can do. So what I would suggest people do is start to connect with one another and really start getting informed about the issue. Reach out to to organizations like Salvation Social Justice if you need us to speak to you or speak to your groups about what's at stake, so that when we can come back, we can try to fight some of these shortcomings in regulation. We can try to work on potentially cleanup legislation around the next leg. Remember, this is not going to be enforced for another 18 months from the date of signing. So we do have some time to really work and galvanize to try and make this as strong as it possibly can.
Right on. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Now, with the time we have left, I want you to give this guy, we're breaking new ground with Salvation and Social Justice. Tell us about your new street team.
So and I think a colleague of mine is supposed to be on who's been working intimately with the street team. But our street team is basically, here we go.
Oh, there you go. Okay. All right. Introduce him for us.
I'll let him take it away.
No, introduce him for us.
Oh, my brother, Tracy, I'll let you do your introduction.
Thank you, Rockwell. Thank you very much. And sorry, guys, I had to get off camera for a minute. I was just finishing up a call. But yes, my name is Tracy Sidefax. I am the program coordinator for Salvation and Social Justice Trenton Restorative Street Team. So it's an honor definitely to be on here with you guys and to talk about the work that we're looking to do here in Trenton, New Jersey.
So let's talk. Let's make it plain. Tell us, brother. Tell us about, Newark is one of the mothers of the street teams in the country.
Absolutely.
Right? So
Absolutely.
tell us about the Trenton street team.
We want to model the success in Newark, and we want to bring that to this little 7.5 square mile city here in Trenton, New Jersey. So we've done some training up in Newark for 4 days. We're still working with them closely to implement the program. But one of the things that that really excites me is that as a formerly incarcerated person myself, one who grew up 17 years in the street and spent 7 years in prison, taking those that are formerly impacted, taking those gangbangers, taking those shot callers and those former drug dealers, and then sending them back onto the corner to stop the violence and to offer a solution, to offer an alternative between life and death is something that I'm very, very excited about it. My background, if anybody don't know, I'm a 28-year entrepreneur. I retired actually from the construction business a couple of months ago. But the thing is, when I built my career and built my business over 28 years, it was built with formerly incarcerated people. So as the one who had came down that road less traveled, I hired close to 17 formerly incarcerated people, and we built a successful multi-million-dollar business here in Trenton. So taking that same experience and using it to work with my leader, Reverend Boyer.
You retired from that? Wait a minute, hold up. I got to put a pin in that. You retired from that?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Shoot,
absolutely.
We probably got brothers around the country saying you need to multiply that before you retire to that. That's an important story because, I mean, absolutely. That's the dead end street all of us go through, and we've done some time. Your record. You can have you been ever convicted of a crime, and if you check yes, your ass ain't getting the job, right?
Well, we always brother Hamm,
they mean the world to us.
Absolutely. And we believe, and I truly believe, if anybody get opportunity to read my book From the Block to the Boardroom, I truly believe that entrepreneurship, especially for formerly incarcerated people, is a way up and out. So even though I retired from the construction business, I own another company called Reentry Ventures, which is a partnership with From the Block to the Boardroom and Open for Business Ventures. What we do is teach entrepreneurship in JJC and prisons across New Jersey. We're going to implement a program in the fall at Edman Prison and Northern State Prison, teaching those inmates how to start and run a business. So even though I'm retiring from the construction business, this is the exciting work. This is the exciting work, but I get an opportunity to teach everything that I've learned. So that's the reason why I'm tired for that business.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. And that's a wrinkle that there are two pieces that are missing or not as developed as they should be in this particular moment of restorative justice work that a lot of us share. One is the question of being able to house those of us in these transitional situations, these very sensitive transitional situations that we're in coming out of the institution. The second is the option of, you know, going into entrepreneurship legally, right? And doing what you did, right? Making some real money legally from the strength of our own wit in our own hands. We had the wit and was making money.
Hey, listen, Muhammad, I tell people all the time.
Right?
I tell people all the time, listen, prior to me going to business in 1993 as a former drug dealer, coming home from prison after spending 5 years, you know, I knew about marketing, I knew sales, I knew networking, I knew distribution, I knew all those things. And those same attributes has what has made me successful today. And one of the greatest things about it is that I'm not afraid of risk. Most people in prison are not afraid of risk. So that's where the opportunity lies.
Yeah. So that's an important facet. That's an important facet. And I'm glad you bring in the question of entrepreneurship into the, you know, the work that that y'all are beginning to break ground in. Now, do y'all have something coming up? Tell us what you got coming up.
Yes, sir, absolutely. On July the 16th, and we invited Newark Street team. I know Patterson Street team just confirmed that they'll be here, but we're inviting everyone down on July the 16th. We have our first initial rally and march that we're going to introduce salvation and social justice to the community and introduce the Trenton Street team to the community. So it's a great opportunity to talk about the work, not just that we're looking to do in Trenton, but the work that's been going on around the country when it comes to this initiative. So July the 16th, next Saturday, here in Trenton, New Jersey, we're going to go from 11 to 4 o'clock. We're going to start the march, and then we're going to meet at Mill Hill Park here in Trenton. So we'll be sending out the flyers, and actually, like I said, we actually reached out to the North Street team and Patterson already. So we hope to have you all come down to join us.
Let me ask you this on the training side. Have you had the chance to have any trainings done by my comrade Akil Bashir?
Absolutely. I've been blessed, brother. I've been blessed to sit for 4 days.
The Black Panther Party. Akil is a comrade. He's
yes, sir. Blessed for 4 days to sit in the classroom with that brother, and he is a treasure trove of information and knowledge. So it was an honor to be in his presence for sure.
There you go. All right. I'm loving what I'm hearing. I'm loving what I'm hearing. I haven't really had a chance to dig in on this side of what y'all doing. I'm loving what I'm hearing, right?
Oh, I'm excited about it, man.
Oh, we should be. We're all excited. And, you know, we got to figure out when we're going to bring y'all back up to Newark and do some sharing with us up here, because we definitely would love to have you. We have, and I'll say this, and I'm going to take some liberties in saying this, and I'm making some criticism over that with the young folks that I work with that are actually in charge of the mechanism. But we have a roundtable that we do for the South Ward of Newark, right, called the Public Safety Roundtable. We need to have y'all come on and introduce you to the Public Safety Roundtable so people can see the influence of the work that's been coming from places like this, and that, you know, when there are good people doing good things, right, and those good things can be replicated with good people in other places to make their spaces better, right? And that's a bi-weekly roundtable that we do. We get about 100 folks on the call. And it's an engagement where we engage the community with what we're actually doing on the streets to change that dynamic, you know, with this violence, to what we actually can be doing when we actually put our hands on our young, because we ain't afraid of our young. See, right? So yeah. So yeah, that's
invitation is accepted, brother. I'm looking forward to coming and listening in. We're looking to have those same round tables down here in Trenton, New Jersey. So I accept your invitation right now. As soon as you can send me the date to be on there, I will be there.
Right on. And we got some comments in the chat. We got a shout out from Principal Bufele, and somebody named Eddie asked a question about the question of control, community control of the police. There is no substitute for the long, ongoing struggle for community control of the police. We need to be real clear about that also, right? That the restorative justice works when you have some element of control of your police. Newark, New Jersey, it took us over 50 years to get the feds to come in and to begin to clean up the corrupt mess that is not just a white thing, by the way, too. I'll Our thugs in Newark, black too. The officer that killed Carl Dorsey on January 1st, 2021, was a black police officer, was nothing but a thug. So the fight for community control, there's no getting around that question of struggle. That struggle is important and as organic as ever, right? And then we need to understand that is important to happen. So for whoever, for that question is an ongoing one, and that's a call that was made by the Black Panther Party that led to calls for civilian review boards back in the early 1960s. So just so we be clear on all of that. All right. And how much time we have with this segment? I know Rhino's ready to try and come and get on in here. I want to respect everybody's time.
Well, he's not back here yet.
Okay.
So
you have anything you want to add to and share with our guests, because we this is we had some jewels. We had a good show. We've really dropping some jewels today.
Well, I think that obviously, having Brother Tracy and Brother Raquel on is real strong, but I think what Brother Tracy is picking up on at this particular point in his life, I think what it shows is that our elders have a role to play with these young people, right? Here's a brother that can go from one particular journey in his life to another journey where he sees a need. And I think that for particularly all of the brothers who have traveled the road that Brother Tracy has had, I think that is where it is, right? I mean, remember the Bible says that, elders, right, or not necessarily for war, but they're for counsel. And these young boys are for war. Right. But what they need is this counsel. Right. There's a time to plant, and then there's a time to pluck up what you plant, right? These young brothers haven't planted anything, but they plucking up everything, right? Wow. And what we've got to do is that we've got to rely on brothers like Tracy, and we've got to thank him for coming back into the fold, because he could have retired and said, man, I'm going to Disney World, right? He could have said that. There are a lot of brothers who do that, a lot of sisters who do that. Yeah. But we thank brother for not doing that, and we thank the beautiful Raquel for staying in the fight and seeing what needs to be on the plate and fight on a legislative level, right? Because our fight is not just one prong. Our fight has always been multi-pronged, right? We've got to have people in the boardroom. We've got to have people on a political front, but we all know that we need people on the street level.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because all of our brothers, and look, this, we was having this conversation last week. All of our brothers and sisters aren't going to go to college, right? And we've got to have brothers who can speak to them real plain, right? I had this conversation, Brother Tracy and Raquel, with my family, over, the 4th of July weekend. And what I was saying is that, we got teenagers in our family now. And so I don't believe in sugarcoating the conversation.
Absolutely.
Right? They're teenagers. And I used to be a teenager, right? And I know some of the slick and dumb shit I did, right? And these kids have access to way more knowledge and way more information than I had, Tracy, right? Mm-hmm. So why would you sugarcoat them? Jail is a real place, right? Having babies when you're a teenager for a female, that's a real action. That really happens. And so why are you going to play games? Why are you going to have a playful conversation? And, the Bible says, what man building a house doesn't sit down and count the cost first? What is it going to cost you? Right? You got to think about you doing that action. What is that going to cost you? You telling me you riding in a car with 5 of your friends and not one of y'all got enough sense to say, hey, man, I don't think this is a good decision. Or you riding with your girl, Raquel, and your girl says, hey, I want to get with that brother over there. What's the consequences, baby? What's that going to cost you? Right? There's a price. For every action, there's a reaction.
That's right.
And so we've got to count that. And so we need Black folks like you all to stay in the fight, but we need Black folks like y'all also to be supported. And so we say here at All Politics Are Local, right, that we as my brother Zaid said, we are the drum, right? So we can get that message out. We can keep talking to our folks and continue to make this particular network available to you all anytime y'all want to come through and have a conversation with the community. Well, we're here. Our door is open to everybody who got something to say and who's doing something for our people. We Black and we make no apologies about that. So we thank you.
Let me just add a couple things. One, I wanted to say how proud I am of Raquel. I was in the last segment talking about how proud I was of Alejandra and whatnot, and they're proud of the same age. But once upon a time when I had my troops in the new Black Panther Party, I had a whole squad coming out of William Patterson, right? Raquel was one of those troops, right?
Wow.
And she's still out here, she's still out here doing some very powerful things. So I'm very proud of it. So we got somebody, who's in this policy challenging space who can handle the streets, right? Who can handle the streets. And then I want to just build also on that last conversation and the question that one of our listeners had raised about the question of community control of the police. I want folks to understand that question that we just raised in that last go round that we raised about fascism, right? It was in 1969 that the Black Panther Party, made a national call to combat fascism, right? So what we need to understand is the police is a part of that, but more than that, we have got to do the kind of coalition building to stay the hand of reaction and fascism that is with us also, right? So I feel like one of my tasks, and with the days that I have left, is to politicize all of these arms of restorative justice that are emerging, because they come from places in the history of our struggle that are important and that are about to confront us right now. Right? That are about to confront us right now. Right? Roe v. Wade is not something that came out of the sky being overturned. Right? These fascists marching through they're going to start trying to march through our communities and loading up in these guns and coming up into our communities, shooting into and shooting down our elders in their churches and in their supermarkets. Huh? Yeah. What about the guns that we control that are not defending our community? See, that's a question that we need to raise on an organized level too, militarily, and not be afraid to have that conversation, right? And I know how to have those conversations. And there are no history of casualties in all the troops that I've managed, right? So we've got a lot to control on that question, right? So, and I don't mean to, I'm not angry at anybody, but I really want that generation to understand the urgency of the moment, and requires us as being politically armed and mature as we need to be, and not to get ourselves set off in silos and thinking that struggle is calling somebody a name.
That's it.
Right? We got to understand the struggle is really about changing conditions and undoing and changing systems that are responsible for our oppressive conditions. That's what struggle is about. We need to be real clear about that. Right? Okay, so beautiful segment. Y'all got me amped up. Y'all got me amped up. Listeners, participants alike, y'all got me amped up. Raquel, what else is going on that you want to share with us with social justice stuff?
Yeah, I mean, Salvation Social Justice, we continue to apply pressure on these legislators. When we're talking about police accountability, we're continuing to apply pressure to have the use of force directive, the Attorney General use of force directive codified. So get on your lines, contact your legislators and tell them to move on this. The police licensure is a good first step, but we know that there's a lot of states that have police licensure programs, and that hasn't stopped the gunning down of our people by law.
That's right.
So we know that police licensure is not going to be a cure-all. So, get on the line, get onto your email your legislators, let them know, like, you want them to move on the use of force use of force bill. You want them to move on the George Floyd chokehold bill. You want them to move on qualified immunity. You want them to move on CCRBs. You want them to move on transparency, right? Like these things, it's not any one thing, right? We need to attack it from all sides. So Salvation Social Justice continues to lead the work in that space, along with addressing issues of life imprisonment and virtual life sentences, trying to abolish those things that keep our people behind bars and away from our communities, and really affect our ability to be contributing members to society and build up this great nation of Black folks. So definitely continue to do that work, and Black maternal work, working to bring birthing centers to some of the birthing deserts in the state, Trenton being one of them. And, you know, of course, community-led response programs, such as, you know, the one that my good brother here is leading, trying to establish pilot programs throughout the state that would allow Black folks and brown folks to police their own communities and respond to mental health and substance abuse calls as they deem fit, rather than from the punitive powers that be. So that's some of the stuff we have going on, and there's more still to come. So get in touch with us.
Yeah. That last piece that you just mentioned, and I don't want that to be lost too. And I'm really talking to the young heads that are paying attention. Is that work that y'all are rolling out in Trenton, that we rolled out here in Newark, you know, on this restorative justice, where we're putting, you know, brothers and sisters who have done that, you know, those of us who have done that back on the street. That's a part of our people policing ourselves. Right, you know, it's not an abstract concept, right? We actually have working examples that are actually doing that, right? Those examples need support. Those examples need to grow, right? They need to grow.
And
right?
I think also, Baba, it's worth mentioning, just to piggyback off that point, that communities policing themselves, like you said, is not an abstract idea. White communities police themselves all the time, right? It's just that Black communities, unfortunately, are under the control of the state, right? So we're saying that there's another way, and it's worth mentioning too that there's a consensus among law enforcement officers that they don't want to respond to a lot of the calls that they have to respond to anyway. So when you're dealing with issues of substance abuse, when you're dealing with issues of mental health calls, there's a consensus among the police or law enforcement community that they're not equipped to deal with these things. So what we're saying is,
right,
you know, back up, let us handle it. We have the cultural and the community context to respond to these calls that they don't have, right? So you know, these pilot programs are critical to really minimizing the tragic instances that we see unfolding in many of our communities between law enforcement and our brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right on. Beautiful. Ed, you want to ask our folks the question of the day?
I do, but I was wondering if I could get their input on something.
Come on, yeah, we got a little more time. Let's keep building. Hell yeah. Yeah.
So you all have heard that there's an open warrant out in Georgia for Carolyn Bryant Dunham, who had falsely accused our brother Emmett Till of whistling at her and so forth. And of course, y'all know that eventually cost that young boy his life. What do you all think? Because, you know, we're hearing that some folks in our community are saying that she's 78 years old and we should just let bygones be bygones. Now, remember, Bill Cosby was in his 80s and they didn't have any qualms about sending Bill Cosby to prison. In fact, they wanted him to do life in prison. And they were trying to build more charges. Do y'all think that this woman should not only be served with that warrant, but be arrested and charged for her brother and her uncle killing Emmett Till? And remember, her brother and her uncle her brother and her husband, remember, they got off with that. They never did a day in jail, even after admitting that they had killed Emmett Till.
Well, you know, brother Eddie, you mentioned arrested and charged. Now she should be arrested, charged, and jail. the same
Yeah.
way they haunt nasties from back in the day and bring them to court and deal and try them. The same should apply for this here. So, nah, she should be tried, charged, and jailed.
What do you think, Raquel?
Well, you know, this is where you know, my where my politics is really testing my conviction, right? So Raquel, you know, Jane Doe citizen, says that she should be arrested and tried, right? Because we know that justice the justice delayed is justice denied, right? And she had a good run. You know, but then she had a really good run. So you know, me personally, I believe that she should be tried, arrested, and jailed. However, our position as an organization, right, when you're dealing with issues of life imprisonment and sentencing is, right, this idea of how does prison serve the public interest, right? So this 78-year-old woman, is she a harm to public safety, right? Are we more concerned about punishment, or are we concerned about public safety? So that's my political response. But me, the individual, says that, you know, for that young boy whose life was stolen and was so brutally, I mean, the cruelty was the point, right? Someone has to speak for that. Someone has to speak for that. My guess is that this is all performative. She'll never see a day in jail. That's my suspicion.
Yeah, absolutely.
You came out of the blue with that one, and I didn't know you were gonna come with that.
Yeah, Zaid,
It was good though.
Give me your point on that, Zaid. What do you
Lock
think?
her behind up. You know that you lock her behind up. Oh my God, are you serious? Now I understand where Raquel's standing for too, because we all, you know, represent this notion of restorative justice, right? So how far do we go with that, right? But you know, the way these folks have put themselves so violently, genocidally, above even being questioned about accountability, you know,
exactly.
You know, no, she could stand a few minutes.
Yeah, and trust me, and when she gets out, we will advocate for her proper reentry services back into her community like we do everyone else.
Let me tell you something. We got a legend inside by the name of Imam Jamil El Amin, right? Former H-Rap Brown, one of our political prisoners, right? If you hear about how he turns heads around, black and white, on backwardness inside the facility, to blow your mind, right? And he has turned some of the most backwards racist elements around on their stuff just by the sheer force of what truth is, what righteousness is, and what justice is. Right. So, you know, I mean, you know, Kwame Ture always taught us there's black and there's white, but there's always the human factors in struggle that we need to be sensitive to as organizers, right? And never, you know, block off a space for people to grow and to correct themselves.
That's right.
You know,
right on,
you know,
good stuff. Good stuff.
You know, I'm gonna blow y'all mind. Do y'all know that this woman for years was living amongst black people in a nursing home in North Carolina, right?
Probably
in a building that is predominantly black elderly people, and when they were asked, did they know she was in that building, because most of these elderly people came of age knowing about the civil rights and knowing about Emmett Till, and when they found out this was the woman, these people were horrified that woman lived in that building, and that this was the woman. Because remember, Emmett Till's mother died not getting justice. She died, right? And this woman who actually caused the death of her son was able to live her life in complete comfort.
Being taken care of by the same black folks that she despised.
In the building.
She was a full-grown adult, right? Like this wasn't a young girl who was under the pressure of, you know, this was a full-blown woman, and she had years and years and years to come clean, right? And she chose, she elected not to. So this, you know,
white skin privilege will allow you that.
She had time to think about it, right? She had time to say while Emmett Till's mother was alive.
She had a good
time
run.
to say,
She had a good run.
right, she had a good run. She had time to say, you know what I did was wrong. Let me come forward and let me face justice, right? And remember, this warrant was an open warrant, and the warrant was found by a young black man just going through the files. And are you telling me that the powers that be, the DA down in Georgia, you telling me that they didn't know that that warrant was there and that it was open? Somebody knew that. Somebody knew that.
So when you go to lock her up, there's going to be a lot of other people you need to lock up too. And that's the thing about isms and schisms, right? It's never about any one person, right? You gotta charge the whole system. You gotta charge the whole system.
Yeah. And
make a list.
Yeah. But that's the way it always has been in the struggle of black folk, right? There's a whole list of folks, that have to be accounted for. I mean, you think about, what Mayor Baraka said at the opening, of his swearing in, when he talked about, what almost happened here in the city of Newark with them changing the polling places at the last minute for seniors, right? And here's the mayor, a young black man in the city of Newark. He called for the firing of those people who did it. And do you know what happened? Not one of those people got reprimanded. Not one. Now, let that have been a white man calling for some black man to be, a black woman to be fired. She wouldn't have came to work the next day. How is it these people still have their job when they were trying to deny the franchise of elderly black people? How you get away with that?
Mm-hmm.
This is America for real, y'all. Didn't mean to bring y'all down, but that's what black is in America.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Oh, tell no lies, claim no easy victory. Greater Milwaukee, bro. Yeah, be prepared to struggle.
So here's the question we ask everybody, and Raquel, you already know you was part of you already got the cheat sheet. So we'll give Tracy an opportunity to think about it since you already know. The question we ask, Brother Tracy, everybody on the show is we ask them, because we are a political hip hop radio talk show, we take the best out of hip hop, not rap music, but the best that elevates our people. And Chuck D, Fight the Powers That Be, some Gil Scott Heron, and those type of folks. So what kind of music are you all listening to today that gets you going, that give you some motivation on the hip hop side?
Wow, on the hip hop side, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but Poor Righteous Teachers came out of the project. Out of Trenton, absolutely. Absolutely. The Ruby Salah, conscious rapper, came out of Trenton. So, I grew up in the 80s, Public Enemy, Eric B., Rakim, and them. So, I'm that guy. So, those are all my favorites.
Yeah. That's hip hop, right? It's not rap music we're talking about. We're talking about hip hop. There you go. Raquel?
Yeah, for me, well, some of the godfathers of hip hop have Jamaican and Caribbean roots. So for me, in rotation, a lot of my listening is rooted in the old heads in reggae music. So you'll have the obviously the Bob Marleys, the Burning Spears, the Garnet Silks. Most recently Chronics. You got Lift Up, obviously. Buju Banton, and then if you go into the hip hop side, you got the Rakims, you got the Mos Defs, Black Thought. Those are my tops.
Yeah,
and I appreciate you. I appreciate you lifting up the reggae too. I appreciate that so much. I'm a closet Rasta.
All right,
Zion,
now. All right,
Zion,
now.
Zion, call me Zion X.
All right.
Classic rock.
My man.
That's the music, y'all, that just like in we've had this conversation, as Zaid, you think about the music of the 70s, right? You think about the sound of Philadelphia. You think about
I'm from Plainfield, home of the P-Funk, the bomb.
Yeah, you think about the music that was coming, right? It lit flames under us. It kept us going, right? It didn't denigrate us, right? It helped us move along. and what you think about, we had this theme when we was in the studio before COVID. Brothers are gonna work it out, right? Yeah. Whatever the issues are, we can work it out, y'all.
Yes.
But we've got hidden forces that don't believe in that.
Well, there's a reason why they say music is the soundtrack of the times, right? So there's a reason why the FBI went after Billie Holiday with such
it's serious exhibit of her in the Newark Museum right now, by the way.
Yeah.
There you go. So they understood what conscious lyrics can do and how it can mobilize.
I am so glad you lifted her up in that way, because that's the book that hasn't been written. There have been sparse writings about her story in that way, but I would see what we're talking about. Those are the origins of what we now call COINTELPRO.
All right.
They went after, but we think of Mr. Garvey as our first big target.
Right.
Except there was a sister before him by the name of Callie House who was organizing to the teeth around the question of reparations. Wound up having to do time for that. Her name doesn't get lifted up, right? But when going into that new age, that four freedoms age, right? When our jazz artists were taking responsibility for bringing conscious direction for the dignity of our people. That's what Billie Holiday and Charlie Parker and all of them were all about, right? And when she did Strange Fruit in 1939, that was the beginning of that first onslaught of drugs to target our artists to keep them from being conscious examples.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I'm glad you lifted that up, because that's a book I always wanted to write. I ain't had the time of day to do it.
We ain't giving up on you, Baba.
I hope I have enough breaths left to do it, but you should be for real.
God will.
Well, listen, y'all, we want to thank y'all.
Let's wrap it up.
Yep. Go ahead, Zahid. No, you can do it. You can go ahead.
Well, this has been another edition of All Politics of Local, America's number one hip hop and talk show, coming straight at you out of the land of Rutgers, Newark, here in the Brick City. We'll see you next week, the same black time, live on Facebook, live on YouTube, 6 p.m. Don't miss it. It's going to be long and it's going to be strong. I already indicated that we may have Gwen Carr, the mother of Eric Garner, may be one of our guests, because the following day is the anniversary of the loss of her son and that spectacle killing that took place in New York. And we're having a street naming in Staten Island in honor of that brother on that day. So we've got something to look forward to. We'll see you next week. Same black time, same black place.
And just to let them know, next week is the Mayor's Forum. Our brother, Mayor Baraka, the 3-time champ here in the city of Newark, will be on. And, we'll get into a real conversation about what it looks like now for the first time in the city of Newark, having control not only of the mayor's house, but also having control of the council in terms of getting some work done.
Yes.
As Zaid and I say all the time, from a real black perspective.
Yes, sir.
It's about how they used to say, paint the White House black. Well, we're going to paint the mayor's house black now.
Yes, sir.
So welcome to Newark, y'all.
All right. I like from Chocolate City to me.
Thank y'all. All right.
We'll see y'all next week.
Next week.
Don't stop.
Peace.